Chapter 857. It's just a secret technique of the Yuan Xian seal. Zhen Hui smiled and said, the Yuan Xian seal, the two hearts are connected. When Senior Martial Brother was practicing, this earth body was also practicing. The Yuan Xian seal was one of the 9 primeval seals. It was normal for the Heavenly Lord Yuanshir's heavenly knowledge to have this feature. Little Meng nodded and suddenly understood. 1 person and 2 figures, it seemed to be a good idea. Senior Brother, you are Ananda's fish. Now, you are about to become a Dharmakaya. For Ananda, you've already fattened up this fish. Zhen Hui pointed at the body of earth beside him and said, with your current strength, you have to prepare in many ways to fight against Ananda. This original body is one of your trump cards. Zhen Hui pointed at the back of the Jade Clear Hall and said, in the back hall, there is the complete inheritance left by the Patriarch. After you take this inheritance, you will have a better chance to fight against Ananda. You have done so much just to let me take the title of Heavenly Lord Yuanshir? To bear the karma of Heavenly Lord Yuanshir? Little Meng knew that there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Little Meng could not figure out the pros and cons of taking my name and bearing my karma. Senior Brother, don't worry. There are only advantages and no disadvantages. The Patriarch once said that taking the name of Heavenly Lord Yuanshir would mean bearing his karma. Senior Brother, you are Heavenly Lord Yuanshir, the one who created the world in the next era. After explaining, Zhen Hui Little Monk smiled and waved at Little Meng. Senior Brother, I'm just an incarnation of spiritual qi. After I meet you, I'll dissipate. Senior Brother, goodbye. As soon as he finished his words, the little monk Zhen Hui disappeared without a trace. The Heavenly Lord Yuanshir who created the world in the next era? Little Meng frowned, feeling a little puzzled. Forget it. Heavenly Primogenitor it is, so be it. It's still too early to talk about the next era. I have to deal with the current situation first. Little Meng looked at the earthling body, sitting cross-legged on the futon, and nodded. With this backup, I'll be more confident when I fight against Ananda. Even if you delete one account, I still have another. Naturally, it would be the safest to leave the earthling body in the Jade Mirage Palace. Little Meng put down his earthly body and walked to the back of the Jade Clear Palace. Naturally, we can't let go of the primeval Lord of Heaven's inheritance. Pushing open the door to the back of the palace, he found that it was a mess inside. It was like the endless darkness at the beginning of the world. There was no up, down, left, or right. There was no past or present. There was no law or order. There was no material energy. When Little Meng stepped into the chaotic nothingness, a Taoist appeared in front of him. The Taoist was illusory and his appearance could not be seen clearly. The Taoist formed a hand seal and pressed forward. Boom! With a loud explosion, the endless primal chaos turned into a stream of light and entered Little Meng's mind. This is the limitless seal? Feeling the information in his mind, Little Meng suddenly understood. The inheritance of the great Tao did not have words, only true meaning. The primeval Lord of Heaven had his own path. Although Little Meng had accepted the karma of the primeval Lord of Heaven and become the primeval Lord of Heaven, he was not the original primeval Lord of Heaven, but himself. This kind of great Tao was not mixed with anyone's understanding. How far he could go depended on himself. In fact, this method had its advantages and disadvantages. The advantage was that Little Meng's future path would not be disturbed by anyone and he could go further. The disadvantage was that with Little Meng's realm, he did not know when he would truly understand the true meaning of primal chaos. If he had an epiphany, it would not be strange for him to understand it instantly. If he was not enlightened, it was not impossible for him to not understand it in his lifetime. After inheriting the limitless seal, next was the Kai Tian seal, the Tao Yi seal, and so on. The true meaning of the primeval 9 seals was passed down one by one. Just like before, it was only the essence and did not mix with anyone's understanding. At this point, the inheritance of the primeval 9 seals was completed. 9 seals, primeval Lord of Heaven. When little Meng was immersed in the understanding of Great Tao, his hands unconsciously formed the primeval 9 seals. Under the guidance of the breath, a cloud appeared above little Meng's head. Primal chaos flowed, black and yellow intersected, golden light shone, and flowers fell. At this moment, little Meng's body shook and his mind kept rising. It was as if he had transcended space and time and arrived at an inexplicable point in the void. The universe originated from the Big Bang. The singularity exploded and the universe was born. The knowledge and worldview that originated from Earth made little Meng's understanding of primal chaos was the singularity. Boom! An illusory light shadow like a black hole was born in the cloud above little Meng's head. It was infinitely big and infinitely small. It existed, but it was as if it did not exist. The singularity of the universe is my limitless seal? Coming back to his senses from the enlightenment, little Meng smiled and dispersed the seal in his hand. Now, everything that needs to be prepared has been prepared. I just need to wait for Ananda to lift the fishing rod and reel in the fishing line. Walking out of the back hall, little Meng looked at the body of Earth, sitting cross-legged, and sneered in his heart. Ananda, I wonder how you will reel in the fishing line. An invisible wave flashed and little Meng instantly left the Jade Virtual Palace and returned to the main world. The task of the master of the Jade Virtual Palace was completed. Naturally, he had to return. In the following period of time, little Meng had been perfecting his preparations to deal with Ananda. Half a month later, little Meng received a task. This was not the task of the master of samsara, but the 6th Tao. The mystery of the demonic sage's life and death. After the demonic tribe attacked Spirited Mountain, the demonic sages disappeared. Their life and death became a mystery. The task is to enter Spirited Mountain and uncover the mystery of the demonic sage's life and death. Of course, there was a prompt from the master of samsara after this task. This is a task of the 6th Tao. You can unconditionally reject it. Do you want to reject this task? I have to face this day sooner or later. There is no need to shrink back, and I can't shrink back. Little Meng took a deep breath, pressed the long saber, and raised his head. Accept the task. Young man, you are quite brave. Liu nodded with a smile. So, go ahead. Perhaps there is a huge benefit waiting for you. Little Meng and Ananda's entanglement followed the original trajectory until the end, when little Meng cut off this previous life. However, Liu didn't have that much time to wait for him. In this way, it was inevitable that he would set Ananda up. The Spirited Mountain was disturbed by the Amitabha Buddha I created last time. The corpses of the Buddhist disciples on Spirited Mountain were all purified. However, there are still many good things on Spirited Mountain. Of course, Liu would not help for free. Big Boss Li was the one who got up early if there were no benefit. The Jingu Bang and the great sage of the demonic race, who was protected by it, were completely ignored. The monkey's cultivation was still far from the Nirvana realm. He was still being kept in the alchemy furnace of Taishang Laojun, so there was nothing to worry about. However, the 5-finger mountain that Gautama Buddha used to suppress the real body of Ananda, the Bodhi tree that strengthened the seal on the 5-finger mountain, and the 3 gems jade rui that Heavenly Lord Yuanshi placed on it. These were all treasures of the Nirvana realm. Big Boss Li said that he would take them and study them first. Chapter 858. Liu, who had entered the spectator mode, looked relaxed. However, little Meng, who had climbed up Spirited Mountain again, looked serious. Even though he had made a lot of preparations, even though he had some backup plans, he was still not confident in facing Ananda, who was a top mighty person in the Nirvana realm. Ananda was Haotian, a mighty person in the Nirvana realm of the same generation as the 3 pristines. Haotian was the first celestial ruler, and he was the heaven's will. He had inquired a lot about Ananda from the master of samsara. The more he knew how terrifying Ananda was. Using the samsara technique to cultivate himself, Haotian was simply unimaginably terrifying. The celestial ruler's body was the nirvana realm. He was reincarnated as the god of thunder and became the nirvana realm. He was reincarnated as Ananda, practiced the Buddha's palm in reverse, turned Buddha into demon, and still reached the nirvana realm. He had cultivated to the nirvana realm for several consecutive reincarnations. What kind of talent did he have? What kind of extraordinary peerless talent did he have? With 3 reincarnations of the nirvana realm, it was no wonder that Ananda could destroy Spirited Mountain, and even the Buddha could only suppress him but could not kill him. Even if he was suppressed by the 5 Fingers Mountain, the Bodhi tree, and the 3 gems jade Rui scepter, a part of Ananda's spirit escaped and became one of the masters of samsara in 6 realms. Of course, it was hard to say whether this escaped part of Heavenly Lord Yuanshur's spirit was purposely going easy on him. After all, Heavenly Lord Yuanshur also had designs on Little Meng. He planned to use Ananda to achieve the goal of reducing and seeking emptiness, and take over the karma of Heavenly Lord Yuanshur. Spirited Mountain, I'm here again. Stepping on this land of Buddhism again, Little Meng felt a little emotional. Thinking of the time when he was chased by the King of Emerald Waves, a little monster who had just entered the exterior realm, he sighed again. After Amitabha expiated Spirited Mountain, this place regained the atmosphere of Buddhism, and no longer looked gloomy and scary. Little Meng was now a half-step to Dharmakaya, and was only a step away from breaking through. He already had some extraordinary power. He jumped, flew on Spirited Mountain, and soon reached the top. There was a big temple on the mountain top. Even though the great battle back then had left this temple in ruins, it still exuded an aura that transcended the mortal world. This is the Great Thunderclap Temple. With a wave of his hand, the plaque of the Great Thunderclap Temple flew out of his hand and hung on the door of the dilapidated temple. Back then, he had taken this plaque, and now he was returning it. This was an end. Just like the battle they were about to face. Everything was over. You're the only one here. A voice rang out from the Great Thunderclap Temple. This voice was exactly the same as Little Meng's own. Obviously, this was Ananda. Do the rest of you still want to drag me down? I didn't go overboard. As the radiance surged, a handsome bald monk dressed in a black robe slowly stepped out of the main gate of the Tempest Temple and came before Little Meng. This person looked exactly like Little Meng. Ananda! Little Meng took a deep breath and pressed down on his long saber. Next, it was a battle of life and death. Don't be nervous and don't resist because it's meaningless. Ananda shook his head with a smile and waved his hand gently. Then, Little Meng was shocked to find that he could not move at all. His cultivation and strength could not be used at all. Do you understand? Everything you have was made by me. I was the one who captured your soul, and I was the one who chose your current body for you. Do you think I won't leave some means to control you? Ananda chuckled. I know you want to resist, and I also know you will resist. Unfortunately, a fish is a fish. You will never be able to break free from the hook. Ananda walked to Little Meng with ease and looked at the fish whose strength was restrained. He smiled and said, You are my backup plan to break free from the seal. If I merge with you, I can break free from the seal, and I can fight for the fruit of Tao of this era. So, how can I let you break free from my control? He pointed a finger. His finger, which was like white jade, gently touched Little Meng's glabella. You are me. So, return to your original self. Ananda's avatar instantly turned into a ray of light and rushed into Little Meng's glabella. He instantly took control of the body and occupied the sea of consciousness. Then, where's the divine soul? Where is the spirit? After occupying the body, Ananda was shocked to find that Little Meng's spirit was gone. Are you shocked? Are you surprised? At this time, A short-haired little Meng wearing jeans, a t-shirt and sneakers walked out with a sneer. This is your original body? Ananda suddenly realized when he saw little Meng's appearance. So you have found your original body. Back then, when I extracted your soul, I did not destroy this body of yours. Ananda shook his head with a smile and slowly raised his hand. This was little Meng's body in this world. This was the body of Su Ziyuan. All your resistance is meaningless, because the gap between us is so big that you can't imagine. Is that so? Little Meng sneered. If I really don't have the strength to fight, why do you think I came out? Wouldn't it be better for me to change back to my original body and hide? Huh! Ananda frowned. He could not understand where little Meng's confidence came from. Knife, come! Little Meng shouted and reached out his hand. Boom! Thunder roared and lightning flashed. A heavy saber surrounded by endless lightning bolts tore open the rift and landed in little Meng's hand. This was the tyrant's invincible blade. The tyrant's invincible blade that was kept in the hands of the fairy of the ninth heaven. However, when little Meng refined the thunder god's mark on the back of his hand with the help of the master of samsara, this knife belonged to little Meng. The tyrant's invincible blade? Is this where you got your confidence from? Ananda laughed. You probably don't know. This saber actually belongs to me. I am the thunder god. The sword of the Nirvana realm that originated from the thunder god was originally mine. Are you going to use my knife to deal with me? It may have been yours in the past, but now it is mine. Little Meng sneered and raised the tyrant's invincible blade in his hand. A mighty aura rose into the sky. Ananda was shocked. He suddenly realized that the mark he left on the tyrant's invincible blade had completely disappeared. Damn it! Who was the mastermind behind this? The mark of the Nirvana realm could only be erased by the Nirvana realm. The mark on the tyrant's invincible blade had disappeared. Who did this? Even I was fooled? At this moment, Ananda had a feeling that things were out of his control. Alright, the master of samsara, this cheat, was just that awesome. My life, a mighty aura rose. Little Meng raised the long knife in his hand and shouted to the sky as if he was announcing to the world. Don't ask about the past. Don't cultivate the afterlife. I only ask for a vigorous and vigorous life. Defeat all the heroes of the various clans and laugh proudly at the six paths. The loud shout spread all over the wilderness and shook the heavens and the earth. Boom! With a slash of the knife, the world changed color. The karma of the previous life was cut off, and everything in the next life would become nothing. Only in this life. I only ask for a supreme life. At this moment, the shackles were cut off and the cage was broken. The mind, dharma form, and body merged into one. Little Meng officially broke through the shackles and became a Dharmakaya, transcending the mortal world. Chapter 859. That's really amazing. Ananda's face darkened when he saw that little Meng had cut off his previous life and the next life with such a decisive stroke. He had become a Dharmakaya in one fell swoop. The imprint on the tyrant's invincible blade was erased, and little Meng could cut off the karma of his past life and future life to become a Dharmakaya. All this clearly showed that there must be a nirvana behind little Meng. No matter who is behind you, unless he takes action personally, you will still die. He waved his hand and a black seal appeared in his hand. The mighty aura shook heaven and earth. All living beings in the world were in the samsara. This was the seal of samsara. Ho too transformed into reincarnation, transforming herself into a reincarnation seal. This seal of samsara was in Ananda's hands. The seal of samsara was the foundation of the six paths of samsara. Ananda, who controlled the seal of samsara, controlled most of the authority of the six paths of samsara. As a samsara traveler, little Meng was already under the control of the seal of samsara. His life was in Ananda's hands. You are just a fish. Do you think you can break free from the hook? Accept your fate. I can kill you at any time. Ananda raised the seal of samsara and wiped it with his hand. He was about to kill little Meng with the seal of samsara. However, your imprint of the real soul disappeared? You escaped from the control of the seal of samsara? How is this possible? When Ananda used the seal of samsara to kill little Meng, he was shocked to find that little Meng's imprint of the real soul was no longer on the seal of samsara. Ananda was stunned. Who did this? To be able to erase little Meng's true spirit mark right under my nose without me noticing, who else would have the ability to do so? Are you shocked? Are you surprised? There is something even more shocking. Little Meng sneered. Do you know that your biggest mistake is to occupy my body? With a flick of his finger, an invisible wave swept across. Ananda was shocked to find that he could no longer move. Su Ziyuan's body was indeed chosen by you for me, and you did leave behind some means to control it. But do you think I don't have any means? On the body of Su Ziyuan, occupied by Ananda, there was a green ring on his left finger that was emitting a faint halo. It was this halo that made Ananda, who had taken over his body, seem to be frozen and unable to move at all. This was little Meng's chief god's tool. Unauthorized user detected. Reincarnator Su Meng is determined to be in a state of emergency. The countermeasures were activated. Do you want to kill unauthorized users? After Ananda seized little Meng's body of Su Ziyuan, little Meng heard this reminder from the dominator of samsara. Little Meng was pleasantly surprised. Ananda, by seizing this body, you are courting death. You want to kill me? I'm the one who wants to kill you. With a cold snort, little Meng waved his hand, and the green ring suddenly burst out a dazzling light. As the 5 colored rays rolled up, the body of Su Ziyuan and Ananda's spirit disintegrated and dissipated into nothingness. The angler, Ananda, had disappeared without a trace before he could even let out a scream. After the 5 colored rays dissipated, only a green ring was left floating in the air. Even the seal of samsara in Ananda's hand had disappeared. Cut the fence and break free from the shackles. From now on, I am free to swim in the vast sea and fly in the sky. The boundless world is mine to roam. There was no hot-blooded fight, only a casual wave of the hand. Little Meng, who had achieved the final victory, was very happy about this. Who would want to risk their lives if they could finish it easily? With the help of the dominator of samsara, little Meng passed this test without any mishap. Reminder: Ananda's real body is suppressed at the side of Spirited Mountain, under the 5-finger mountain. Ananda's real body has not been destroyed, so he still can't get rid of his identity as a fish. When little Meng was full of joy, the dominator of samsara poured a bucket of cold water on him. Ananda's real body? Little Meng looked up to the left side of Spirited Mountain, where there was a 5-finger mountain shaped like a palm. The huge mountain was only a little smaller than Spirited Mountain. On this mountain, there was a giant tree shining with spiritual light. It was a Bodhi tree. Even the Buddha could only suppress the real body of Ananda, but could not destroy it. How can I destroy it? Looking at the 5-finger mountain, little Meng smiled bitterly. There was nothing he could do. Not to mention destroying the real body of Ananda, even climbing the 5-finger mountain was impossible for little Meng, who had achieved the realm of Dharmakaya. After all, that was the nirvana artifact of Gautama Buddha. Reminder: on the 5-finger mountain, there is also the trigem jade rui of the heavenly Lord Yuanshi. Hearing this reminder, little Meng was shocked. Yes, I have inherited the heritage of the heavenly Lord Yuanshi and bear the karma of the heavenly Lord Yuanshi. Doesn't this trigem jade rui belong to me? Thinking of this, little Meng quickly jumped up and rushed to the 5-finger mountain. What a heavy pressure! Just as he reached the foot of the 5-finger mountain, a huge pressure pressed down on him. Little Meng only felt that an extremely heavy mountain was pressing down on him, making it difficult for him to move. It is indeed the most precious treasure of Gautama Buddha. Under the 5-finger mountain, It is really not something that an ordinary person can withstand. Little Meng let out a long breath. At this moment, he was already standing under the Five-Finger Mountain and could already feel the Tri-Gem Jade Rui. Wuji! Heavens splitting! Dao One! He pinched the premier 9 seals in his hand. The Wuji chaos, the Big Bang, and the principles of karma rushed out, instantly activating the Tri-Gem Jade Rui placed on top of the Five-Finger Mountain. Boom! With an earth-shattering sound, an endless aura of chaos spread out, turning the surroundings of the Five-Finger Mountain into chaos. With the Tri-Gem Jade Rui as a cover, I can secretly make my move. Liu smiled and reached out his hand. An invisible wave rushed out and through the Master God's tool in Little Meng's hand, the recovery channel of the system's resource vault opened. In the chaos, the Five-Finger Mountain, the Bodhi Tree, the Tri-Gem Jade Rui, and the real body of Ananda suppressed under the Five-Finger Mountain all disappeared. The seal of Samsara, the Five-Finger Mountain, the Bodhi Tree, the Tri-Gem Jade Rui, and the real body of Ananda are all existences of the Nirvana realm. Liu glanced at the resource warehouse with a smile on his face. Unfortunately, I have to return the Tri-Gem Jade Rui and the real body of Ananda to Little Meng. Otherwise, I won't be able to play anymore. With a wave of his hand, the real body of Ananda was instantly disintegrated and all traces of Ananda were erased. Young man, today is the day you achieve Tao. Liu waved his hand and threw the Tri-Gem Jade Rui out, instantly falling into Little Meng's hand. With the Tri-Gem Jade Rui in his hand, the aura of chaos erupted again. As the aura of chaos spread, a ray of light flew out from nothingness and fell between Little Meng's eyebrows. This ray of light was the disintegrated real body of Ananda. Ananda was Haotian, Ananda was the god of thunder, and Ananda was the devil Buddha. 3 Nirvana realm, a vast and boundless cultivation. More importantly, Ananda was Little Meng. After the disintegration, all traces of Ananda were erased. The power of the real body of Ananda naturally became Little Meng's. There was no hindrance, no rejection, and no discomfort. After this power was integrated, Little Meng's own spiritual imprint was imprinted in this power. Everything of Ananda became Little Meng's. With a boom, heaven and earth shook. At this moment, Little Meng's aura rose infinitely, transcending space and time, reaching the Nirvana realm. In an instant, Little Meng achieved the Nirvana realm. Chapter 860. Damn it! What's going on? When the aura of the Nirvana realm shook the world, countless powerful figures in the world jumped up in shock. The powerful figures of the Nirvana realm, who were sleeping in the void and chaos, woke up one by one. A newly born Nirvana realm was beyond everyone's expectation. There were only a few Nirvana realm cultivators since ancient times. No one wanted a new Nirvana realm cultivator to be born. A new Nirvana realm cultivator meant one more person to fight for the fruit of Tao. Ananda? He was tricked by the heavenly Lord Yuanshi, and then his fish took over his nest? A new Nirvana realm cultivator is a threat. We must eliminate him before he turns back time and marks his existence at the beginning of the world to become the oldest Nirvana realm cultivator. Amitabha Juanti, Empress Hua, Queen Mother of the West, these ancient Nirvana realm cultivators all made up their minds to kill this new Nirvana realm cultivator. But the 3 pure ones felt different. How could there be such a variable? How could there be such a good opportunity? That's great. In the void of chaos there was a loud roar. The heavenly Lord Yuanshi, who had retired for countless years, suddenly laughed out loud. His entire body exploded and turned into a chaotic divine light. A treasure that looked like a flag and filled with chaotic aura rushed out of the void. It rolled up the chaotic divine light that the heavenly Lord Yuanshi turned into and rushed out of the chaos. It broke through time and space and rushed to Little Meng on Spirited Mountain. Junior brother Yuanshi, is it time? In another void, a white-haired old Taoist who was sitting cross-legged in front of an alchemy furnace suddenly opened his eyes and laughed. A Tai Chi diagram rolled up, and the white-haired old Taoist collapsed instantly. He turned into a yin and yang chi and merged into the Tai Chi diagram. It rushed out of the chaos and went to immortal Chongha. Billions of years of waiting, billions of years of killing, finally, this day. A Taoist in a green robe laughed. He exploded into a yellow chi. 4 long swords and a formation diagram rolled up the yellow chi. They broke through the void and went to Gu Chongqing. This is, damn it, this is the 3 Pure Ones trump card. This is their reducing and seeking emptiness. Seeing this scene, Amitabha, Kundi Nyuwa, and Shi Wangmu instantly understood everything. Ananda's fish? Retirement? Tranquility? They were all fake. The 3 Pure Ones were fighting for the opportunity to attain the Tao. The 3 purities wanted to achieve a Tao fruit. Kill. At this moment, it had nothing to do with good or evil. Every ancient Nirvana realm person only had one thought in their mind, and that was to kill. One era, one Tao fruit. If the only chance to transcend is snatched away by the 3 Pure Ones, then wouldn't all our efforts over the past hundreds of millions of years be for naught? After Hongjun took the primal chaos Tao fruit, the final end Tao fruit would be everyone's only chance at the end of the epoch. The struggle for Tao fruits was a life and death struggle. The Amitabha Buddha waved his hand, and a vast and mighty Buddhist light covered the sky and covered the earth. It wasn't compassion, nor was it redemption, but it was a killing blow. Kundi also used the Tree of 7 Wonders. Its mighty radiance tore through the sky and destroyed the world. At this moment there was no mercy, only death. They had to kill the 3 Pure Ones' target. Otherwise, the 3 Pure Ones would cut off all karma and break free from the shackles of heaven and earth. They would attain the Tao. The Amitabha Buddha and Kundi teamed up and attacked Little Meng together. After all, Little Meng had accepted everything from Ananda. He was already a new Nirvana realm person. On the other side, in the palace of Empress Hua, a mountain river map shook the void and slammed down on Gu Chongqing. Gu Chongqing was still in Luoyang. The most prosperous place in Dajin was near Luoyang. Billions of people lived in this area. Nyuwa was the holy mother of the human race. But at this moment, she didn't care about how many people she would kill with this attack. The only way was to eliminate the 3 Pure Ones' target of reducing and seeking emptiness. Otherwise, the battle for the fruit of Tao would have been a complete failure. At the same time, in the Pure Yang Temple of North Zhou, immortal Chongha was also facing a fatal attack. The Golden Emperor Queen Mother of the West waved her hand and created a vast and mighty golden ocean. This was Jasper Lake. It gathered the purest and most concentrated chi of metal in the world. The vast and mighty golden ocean crushed everything in the world. Everything in the world, everything that existed, was sliced into pieces by this endless golden chi. The 3 Pure Ones had already cut themselves off and gave everything to the target of Tao fruit. In a sense, the 3 Pure Ones didn't exist anymore. Without the 3 Pure Ones, they had to face the attack of the 4 Nirvana realm expert. Little Meng, Gu Chongqing, and Chongha were facing the biggest crisis of their lives. If nothing went wrong, they would definitely die. Of course, there would be accidents. The 3 Pure Ones weren't fools. Wouldn't they be courting death if they severed their bodies without any preparation? Namo Shakyamuni Tathagata. At this moment, a vast and mighty Zen sound rang between heaven and earth. A golden Buddha appeared in the void. One of his hands pointed to the sky and the other to the ground. In heaven and earth, he was the only one. This was Tathagata Buddha, the existence who had swallowed the Jianmu fruit and achieved half a Tao fruit. The Jianmu tree was also known as the Supreme Wisdom Tree. The fruit of the Supreme Wisdom Tree was also a Tao fruit. Unfortunately, the Tao fruit was not an external object. After swallowing the Builder Tree fruit, Tathagata, unabashedly achieved half a Tao fruit. He could go up, but he couldn't go up. He could go down, but he couldn't go down. Just like that, he was stuck there awkwardly. So, to him, helping the three pure ones to achieve Tao and then letting them beat him down to free him from this awkward situation was the only way. Tathagata was the backup plan of the three pure ones. Buddha is merciful, save all living beings. The golden Buddha stretched out his hand and slapped. The mighty Buddha light covered the sky and earth. After all, half a Tao fruit was beyond the Nirvana realm. Under this attack, Amitabha, Kundi, Nuwa, and the Queen Mother of the West were all blocked by him. The Panga banner, the Taiji diagram, and the fairy slaying sword formation carried all the power and karma of the three pure ones. They broke through the void and fell toward Little Meng and the other two. In just a moment, everything would be settled. However, the ancient Nirvana realm people were all used to playing dirty. They also had a lot of backup plans. Satisfied. At this moment, the sound of a cicada suddenly came from Spirited Mountain. A huge golden cicada suddenly rushed out from behind Spirited Mountain. It screamed shrilly and charged fiercely toward Tathagata. Golden cicada. Seeing this golden cicada, Tathagata let out a long sigh. This was what Tathagata left behind when he was reducing emptiness. The cicada shed its shell, and then relied on the Jianmu fruit to achieve half a Tao fruit. Unfortunately, he took the wrong path back then. This golden cicada was Tathagata's weakness. Western Buddha is thoughtful. You can even find the golden cicada. This kind of secret was found by others. Tathagata knew that the matter of the three pure ones achieving Tao was probably not going to happen. Since Tathagata Buddha has achieved Tao, there is no need to be involved in karma anymore. Amitabha stretched out his hand and pointed. The golden cicada was instantly annihilated and turned into nothingness. As for Tathagata, the moment the golden cicada turned into nothingness, he was involuntarily repelled by heaven and earth. Half a Tao fruit was also beyond heaven and earth. Without the connection of the golden cicada, Tathagata was not in heaven and earth. Naturally, he couldn't interfere with the matters of heaven and earth. Three pure ones, you can't achieve Tao. At this moment, the four ancient Nirvana realm people already had victory in their hand. The three pure ones' target of reducing emptiness was definitely a dead end. Chapter 861. Amitabha. Amitabha chanted with a merciful smile on his face. Then, he slapped at Little Meng. At the same time, Kundi spawned the Tree of Seven Wonders and attacked Little Meng. Goddess Nvaiwa and the Queen Mother of the West also attacked Gu Chongqing and Chongha respectively. Under the joint attack of the two oldest Nirvana realm people, even if Little Meng absorbed everything from Ananda and achieved the Nirvana realm, he couldn't resist at all. Gu Chongqing and Immortal Chongha were even worse. They were like ants that could be easily crushed. Panga banner, Tai Chi diagram, and fairy slaying sword formation were only half a step away from the three. But this half step seemed to be forever uncrossable. At this time, it's time for I to show up. In the ice valley of Tsangyue Kingdom, Liu laughed and stood up. He reached out his hand and the glacier sword flew into Liu's hand. This is the last time for Bai Zhe to fight. Grabbing the ice river sword, he waved his hand and slashed out. Clang, the shrill sound of the sword soared into the sky. It was cold and silent. All things returned to the void and all living beings returned to silence. It was like the final ending after the end of the world. Everything turned into nothingness. When the sword was swung, heaven and earth shook. The calamity aura that had gathered in this world for hundreds of millions of years suddenly rushed up and condensed in the sword. This world had already reached its end, and it was about to welcome the final great destruction. Liu's sword only showed the characteristics of the Nirvana realm with the cultivation of Dharmakaya. It triggered the calamity aura of heaven and earth and swung out an earth-shattering sword. Heavenly Sword Su Wuming was promoted to Dharmakaya. He had the characteristics of the legendary realm and was omnipresent. The original Little Meng was promoted to Dharmakaya and had the characteristics of the Nirvana realm. He had the power to change fate and karma. Now, Glacier Swordsman Bai Zhe showed the characteristics of the Nirvana realm that were stronger than them. Under the guidance of the Calamity Aura at the end of the era, he swung out a Nirvana realm attack that was comparable to that of the oldest elders. Although it was unexpected, it was reasonable. Big Boss Li didn't want to show his true form because the karma of this world was too heavy. He didn't want to leave behind the karma of this world after he left. That would be too troublesome. This is Brother White. Xiao Meng and Gu Chongqing immediately recognized the sword. This was Glacier Swordsman Bai Zhe. At this critical moment of life and death, at this critical juncture where there was no chance of survival, Bai Zhe resolutely made a move. Xiao Meng and Gu Chongqing were both touched and shocked. Brother Bai actually has such strength? To be able to deliver a blow equivalent to the Nirvana realm? Sword of Eradication. This shocking slash of the sword shocked all the Nirvana realm beings. How could there be such a person? How could there be such a person? The power of this sword was very strong, but to the ancient Nirvana realm people, it was not much of a threat. However, this sword was not meant to attack these Nirvana realm beings. It was merely meant to block their attacks. Boom! A violent explosion resounded. The golden Bodhi palm, the tree of 7 treasures, the mountain and river map, and the Jasper Lake were all hindered by the sword. It was just a moment, but it was enough. At this moment, the Panga banner, the Tai Chi diagram, and the fairy slaying sword formation carried the cultivation of the 3 pure ones and their karma into the bodies of the 3. Boom! The void shook and the sky and earth changed color. 3 auras that shook the sky and earth shot up to the sky. The beginning of the world, the wood of the era, between the beginning and the end. The beginning of chaos, the law of order and matter and energy. Everything came naturally and everything was settled. 1 was 10,000 and the moment was eternity. At this moment, the imprints of the 3 people's souls crossed the endless time and space, traced back to the beginning of the world, and were branded at the beginning of the world. Then, from the beginning of the world until now, all time and space were branded with the imprints of the 3 people's souls. At this moment, the 3 of them experienced everything from the beginning of the world until now. The moment was eternity. At this moment, since the beginning of the world, the 3 pure ones had become Heavenly Primogenitor Su Meng, Heavenly Primogenitor Dao Chong He, and Heavenly Primogenitor Lingbao Gu Chongqing. The original 3 pure ones didn't exist anymore. In the hearts of all living beings in the universe, there was no original 3 pure ones, only the current 3 pure ones. Other than the Nirvana realm beings and the Fate Creator, the others didn't know what happened today. They didn't know that the 3 pure ones had all changed at this moment. So, I'm the Heavenly Primogenitor. Little Meng laughed and waved his hand. The Pangu banner fell into his hand. With a shake, he blocked the attacks of Kundi and Amitba. Tai Chi diagram out! Immortal Chong he waved his hand, and the Tai Chi diagram flew out of his hand, blocking the golden light of the Queen Mother of the West's Jasper Lake. Fairy slaying sword formation. Slash. 4 rays of sword light shot up to the sky and slashed the mountain river map that Nuwa had smashed down. Then, the dust had settled, and all the fighting had lost its meaning. The 3 pure ones had achieved Tao, and the new 3 pure ones had appeared. The fruit of Tao of this era was gone, and it was meaningless to continue fighting. Amitba let out a long sigh with a sorrowful expression. Then, he turned around and left. In the end, the 3 pure ones beat us to it. Kundi gritted his teeth and turned to leave as well. The hundreds of millions of years of fighting has ended today. It's a pity that my Tao can only wait for the next era. In the next era, It would need to be silent in the chaos and wait for the heavenly primogenitor to open the world again. That would be after the immeasurable calamity. Even Nuwa, the oldest Nirvana realm being who was immortal, felt that it was an endless time. Humph! The Golden Emperor and the Queen Mother of the West kept Jasper Lake and planned to return to her void hometown. Yes, the Ajati matriarch was the Queen Mother of the West's disguise. "Husband, I've been bullied." At this moment, Little Meng heard Gu Xiaosang's voice. "Husband, I'm the Queen Mother of the West's fish, and also her target for reducing and seeking emptiness. Now that the fruit of Tao is gone, my existence will only weaken the Queen Mother of the West's power. She will definitely kill me." Hearing Gu Xiaosang's words, Little Meng laughed. "I see. In the ancient times, the Queen Mother of the West was Haotian's wife. Now, Gu Xiaosang was also Little Meng's wife. Everything was that simple. In the end, Gu Xiaosang is my wife. The Queen Mother of the West is someone else's wife. When my wife is bullied, I naturally have to stand up for her. So, don't blame I for being ruthless." With a wave of his hand, the Pangu banner slashed through the air. 3 pure ones as one, of one heart and one mind. Gu Chongqing released the fairy-slaying sword formation without hesitation. "Since they're bullying my sister-in-law, I can't just sit back and do nothing." Chong He released the Tai Chi diagram. After inheriting everything from the 3 pure ones, the new 3 pure ones were no worse than the real 3 pure ones. The Queen Mother of the West could not resist the 3 pure ones at all. After holding on for a while, she was hit in the head by the 3 precious jade rui, and her spirit was destroyed. "Thank you, husband. Thank you, uncles." Gu Xiaosang gracefully walked over and bowed. Then, she reached out and pointed at the corpse of the Queen Mother of the West. Like rivers returning to the sea, the Queen Mother of the West turned into a ray of light and fell between Gu Xiaosang's eyebrows. In an instant, Gu Xiaosang inherited everything from the Queen Mother of the West. She also became the Nirvana realm. "Alright. Everything's done. I'm going to take back the last and biggest reward." Liu chuckled and looked up at the void. He looked at the 3 figures who had transcended the world but still had half a foot to step out of it. They were the 3 pure ones. The 3 pure ones who had attained Tao. Because there was still a layer of karma between them and Liu that had not been fully resolved. Chapter 862. Congratulations on achieving Tao fruit, fellow Taoists. Liu smiled and nodded at the void. "Thank you for your help, fellow Taoists." By now, the 3 purities fully understood that Liu had been behind all of this. "Fellow Taoist, since you've helped us achieve our Tao, we should settle this karma. Without doing so, the 3 purities wouldn't be able to leave this world. No matter what, this karma had to be settled." At this point, the 3 purities no longer had any treasures. In fact, they didn't even have their original cultivation. The only thing they had was a Tao fruit. Tao fruit isn't an external object. However, our experience can also be used as a reference for you. 3 pure ones reached out and grabbed a wisp of the Tao fruit's aura. 3 pure ones sent this wisp of Tao fruit's aura towards Liu. With that, the karma is settled. "Goodbye, fellow Taoists." Liu nodded with a smile. With a wave of his hand, he collected the aura of their Tao fruits. Over the years, Liu had used the identity of Bai Zhe to cultivate the techniques of this world. At the same time, he'd analyzed the laws of heaven and earth contained within the Builder Tree. He'd already understood what a Tao fruit was. His roots weren't in this world, so he didn't need to achieve Tao fruit here. He'd helped the 3 purities achieve their Tao for the sake of their Tao fruits. Although I can't copy Tao fruits, studying the 3 purities paths is still very helpful to me. Liu's own origin great Tao was the foundation. The Tao fruits of this world were at most a reference. He could absorb the benefits from them and integrate them into his own great Tao. Liu had no intention of changing his path. The path of the great Tao didn't tolerate half-heartedness. You had your Tao, and I had mine. Studying your Tao was only to improve my own. Liu had always been very clear about this. Whether it was becoming an immortal emperor with celestial emperor Huang or comprehending Tao fruits here, they were all just appearances. His true goal lay in his own great Tao. The origin of matter, the origin of order, and the ultimate origin of chaos. When the three merged into one, it would become the origin of all time and space. This was Liu's own path. The Tao fruit could be used as a reference, but it would not be copied. This world has been ruined by me again. Liu chuckled. The counterfeit version of the three pure ones had become the real deal. The situation in the future would definitely be very different. However, all of this had nothing to do with Liu. What will the next epoch be like? It's still worth looking forward to. Little Meng, the heavenly primogenitor, would reopen heaven and earth in the chaos after this world fell silent. Heaven and earth were destroyed, and all living things ceased to exist. There's no point for me to leave the shopping center behind. It will only vanish into thin air when the era ends. Therefore, the master of Samsara system is very valuable. He reached out and took out Ananda's seal of Samsara. So, let the master of Samsara create a real creator space in this world. He pointed his finger, and the seal of Samsara instantly turned into a ray of light and merged with the master of Samsara. In that instant, the space of the 6 paths of reincarnation no longer existed. Everything had been absorbed by the Lord of Samsara. Little Meng, Gu Chongqing, goodbye. Smiling and waving his hand, Liu's figure disappeared in an instant. There was no trace left in this world. The only thing left was the glacier swordsman, Bai Zhe, and his legendary battle record. 9 apertures perfected and killed the exterior. Just entered the exterior and defeated a grandmaster. The Dharmakaya blocked the Nirvana realm with his sword. Such a legendary battle record left countless people in this world shocked and inexplicable. However, this mythical figure suddenly disappeared one day. Even with the heavenly primogenitor Su Meng's ability, he could not find Bai Zhe's whereabouts. He only knew that this person existed and was alive, but he did not know where he was. He had left behind an undefeated legend in this world, as well as a peerless inheritance. He had even created a clan that was revered by the world. The Tsanyue Bai family was the strongest family in the world, because they had the legendary glacier swordsman Bai Zhe and the 3 pure ones as their backing. Of course, all of this had nothing to do with Liu. I'm back. His figure appeared in the immortal mansion. Seeing the familiar scene in front of him, a smile appeared on Liu's face. I've also received a few good things from this world. One was the 5-finger mountain, and the other was the Bodhi tree. The 5-finger mountain that had suppressed the monkey and Ananda possessed the essence of the other side. Unfortunately, it was refined using Buddhist techniques and was different from Liu's own path. This thing will be stored in the warehouse for now. When it's useful one day, it can be used as a material. As for the Bodhi tree, this was a true Bodhi tree that Buddha had comprehended the Tao. It was still fundamentally different from the Bodhi tree that Yi Fan had brought back from his world. The Bodhi tree in Fan's world was essentially the Bodhi immortal medicine. This thing will be planted in the garden of the immortal mansion. With a wave of his hand, he threw the Bodhi tree to Ting Qing and told her to plant it. With Bai Zhe's cultivation experience and the 3 pure ones' comprehension of the Tao fruit, my understanding of the Tao fruit is already very clear. It's time to condense my own Tao fruit and integrate the power of the Tao fruit into my great Tao of origin. Letting go of his mind, Liu began to trace back all the additional selves of the myriad worlds, and began to trace back to his past and present lives. Looking back in time, the past was still vivid in his mind. The poor people on Earth had accidentally transmigrated and activated this system. They were able to create all kinds of subsystems. Then, along the way, he pretended to be pretentious and plundered, creating the titles of Grand Empyrean, Heaven-shrouding Great Emperor Yu Huang, Taoist Master Xian Huang, Northern Heaven Middle Sky Great Emperor Yu Huang, Great Heavenly Lord of Taiji, Creator, Lord God, and Ice River Swordsman. These past events had long been unified into one. They were all Li Yu himself, and there was no difference between self and additional self. However, when Li Yu continued to trace back the time, he was shocked to discover he had no previous life, nor did he have an afterlife. It's understandable that there's no afterlife. After all, at my level, eternal immortality is no longer a fantasy. But what's with no previous life? When Li Yu was on Earth, he was a poor person. Not only did he not have any supernatural abilities, he did not even have much money. How could such an ordinary person not have a previous life? Only saints like the three pristines who were born in the Nirvana realm did not have a previous life or an afterlife. I can't be a natural saint, right? Then, why don't I have a previous life? Li Yu was completely baffled by this. So, in essence, I have long been the only one in the myriad world. My previous life, present life, future life, past and future have long been integrated into one? Unable to understand why he did not have a previous life, Li Yu could only put this question aside and continue to condense his own Tao fruit. Then, he saw the system. Although he could not see it clearly, he could already vaguely see a shadow. This was the first time he had discovered the existence of the system so far. What the heck? Li Yu was dumbfounded. Could it be? This system of mine is actually a Tao fruit? Or even an existence more awesome than Tao fruit? Chapter 863. It was a ball of light. It had no shape, no color, and it was impossible to tell if it really existed. There was only a faint shadow. This was the system. This was the first time Li Yu felt the existence of the system. The Tao fruit also has the characteristics of being unknowable, indescribable, and unpredictable. So, the system has the characteristics of the Tao fruit? Then, the most important question was, whose Tao fruit was it? Of course, with Li Yu's insight, he could naturally see that the system was not as simple as the Tao fruit. It was even more mysterious than the Tao fruit. At this moment, the idea of a conspiracy emerged in Li Yu's mind. Some mastermind released the system to parasitize others, and then, when these hosts were fattened up, they were slaughtered and eaten one by one. After all, Li Yu himself had been the mastermind behind the scenes for many years, and he was very familiar with the little tricks of the mastermind behind the scenes. Could it be? The situation I'm facing is to fatten up and then kill? At this moment, Li Yu broke out in cold sweat. Xiao Meng was a fish raised by someone else. Could it be that I'm the same? System, then. Is it you? After taking a deep breath, Li Yu asked the system. Yes. From the strange ball of light, the system's cold and rigid voice sounded. System, what is the purpose of your existence? The system had no intelligence, no personality, only some rigid procedural rules. Therefore, Li Yu wanted to fish for information, to see if he could find any clues. If there was really a mastermind behind the scenes, he could always find some clues, to assist the user to become a famous system supplier in the universe. The system gave an answer without hesitation, but this answer was very formulaic. Other than that, Li Yu naturally would not give up so easily, and continued to probe. Execute all the user's orders. This answer was also very formulaic, but, after hearing this, Li Yu had a thought. Execute all my orders? Then, what if I told you to self-destruct? Would you execute it? This was Li Yu's test. If it was really a fish raised by someone, then the system must be the fish net. It was impossible for a fish farmer to let the fish escape from the net. The user can command the system to self-destruct. However, the user's current cultivation base is not high enough. Activating self-destruction will result in serious consequences. It does not meet the system's self-destruct condition. The self-destruct command cannot be executed. Insufficient cultivation? Is it because of insufficient authority? Liu had expected that the system would not self-destruct. But the reason was due to a lack of cultivation? This was very strange. With Liu's current cultivation, he could be considered a top-notch existence in that world. How could the system say that his cultivation base was insufficient? What does the lack of cultivation have to do with your self-destruction? The self-destruction of the system will result in a violent spacetime collapse. It would cause the user's currently known and unknown endless spacetime to be completely annihilated and turned into chaos. With the user's current cultivation base, it is impossible to survive the collapse of the spacetime dimension. Hearing this answer, Liu was dumbfounded. You, a system self-destruct, actually want to destroy endless spacetime? However, since the system was even more unfathomable than the Tao fruit, once it self-destructs, annihilating endless spacetime was not impossible. But wasn't this an excuse? A seemingly reasonable excuse that hid the truth. System, you are lying. Liu directly cheated the system. What is lying? The system's rigid voice sounded again. This made Liu stunned. Only then did he react. The system had no intelligence, it did not know what lying was. But, if he thought about it according to the conspiracy theory, wasn't all this a kind of disguise? Who could be sure that the system had no intelligence? System, what is your essence? Tao fruit? Or some other form? Liu changed his angle and once again probed the system's origin. According to the user's current understanding, the form of the system's existence has the characteristics of a Tao fruit, but is higher than a Tao fruit. Then, whose Tao fruit are you? Liu immediately raised this crucial question. The system is not a Tao fruit. The owner of the system is the user himself. Alright, pretend I didn't ask. My own body? With my current realm, I can't create something as profound as you. Your words? I don't believe a single word. But, until now, Liu was still unable to truly understand everything about the system. It's a good thing that my cultivation was all cultivated by myself, and not exchanged by the system. But, the form of the system's existence, even with my current realm, I can't understand it. What is its origin? This question, there was no answer at all. If he couldn't even understand it, he couldn't even see it, let alone talk about how to fight against the system. At least for now, I haven't discovered any malicious intent from the system. Regarding the system's origin, he would have to face it in the future. But now it was too early to talk about this. Maybe I'm thinking too much? Liu smiled and let go of this question. From the current point of view, the system did not have any adverse signs. Then he would use it as it was and wait until he had enough strength to face it. Without enough strength, there was no point in thinking too much. Throwing this question aside, Liu condensed the Tao fruit again. This time it was very smooth. Liu fused the characteristics of the Tao fruit into his own origin of matter and origin of order. Everything went smoothly, and when the conditions were right, success came naturally. It was as if a piece of wallpaper was pasted on a wall that had been built long ago. It was very easy and very simple. As expected, my strength is actually not inferior to the Tao fruit. It's just that in some characteristics it's not as deep as the Tao fruit. The Immortal Emperor realm focused on combat power and did not dig into the heart training aspect. From the perspective of the realm, the Tao fruit did indeed pay more attention to the heart training realm. In terms of combat power, the Immortal Emperor's destructive power was stronger. Time, space, matter, energy, the exploration and control of these things, the Tao fruit was more delicate and deeper. The power of the Immortal Emperor was more simple and crude. There was no fine manipulation, only crushing. One plays with manipulation. the other plays with instant kill. The direction is different, but in essence, it's hard to say who is stronger and who is weaker. This was the difference between the arcane sorcerer and the fireball sorcerer. After the characteristics of the Tao fruit were integrated into the order origin and matter origin, Li Yu's control of matter, energy, order, and law became more delicate and detailed. In terms of the essence of strength, there is not much improvement. The path of my own primal chaos is still very far away. However, the control of strength has become more delicate. For example, Li Yu could now look back in time with a glance and see everything in his past. It was not like before, when he needed to use his own strength to reverse the long river of time. The method in the past was more crude, directly reversing the long river of time. Now, the method was to make use of the opportunity to squeeze through. This can be considered a very beneficial supplement and improvement. Li Yu nodded and stood up. He raised his eyes to the void and looked at the origin world. In this world, there is another he is about to wake up. This mystery also needs to be properly investigated. The child had recovered a lot and was almost fully recovered. The author finally let out a sigh of relief and also had the mind to write. Chapter 864. He is about to wake up. What kind of existence is this he? Since there was a he who was about to wake up in the main world, Li Yu naturally had to find out who this he was and why the immortal emperor was so scared that he hid everywhere and did not dare to show his face. Li Yu stepped out of the immortal mansion and came to the southern heaven region of the main world. After having the characteristics of the Tao fruit, it's a lot more convenient. Holding a strange bronze mirror in his hand, Li Yu smiled and nodded. If it was before, it would be a bit troublesome to search for clues. Now, with the characteristics of the Tao fruit, this kind of subtle operation was much more convenient. The primeval 9 seals, the principles of karma. The thousands of karma in the world can be seen in a glance. Reaching out and touching the bronze mirror, Li Yu traced all the past of this mirage mirror and all the karma of this mirage mirror. As expected, the past in time has been erased. Since the mirage immortal emperor wanted to run away and hide his existence, he would certainly erase the traces of this mirage mirror in the long river of time. Unfortunately, karma can't be erased. The cultivation of this world did not pay much attention to the way of karma. This kind of cause and effect was like fatalism. In this world, no one had cultivated in this direction. In fact, this kind of cause and effect connection of all things is similar to my previous method of Book of Changes. Following the karma connection on the mirage mirror, Li Yu soon found a karma line. A karma line that led outside the southern heaven region. Outside the southern heaven region? The southern heaven region was vast and boundless. Even some immortal kings, the lords of heaven of the main world, had not traveled all over the southern heaven region. Li Yu's travel in the southern heaven region had only been to the southern heaven region and the Tianshui region. There were still many places he had not been to. This karma line is the karma between the mirage mirror and the mirage immortal emperor. Then, this place outside the southern heaven region must be one of the immortal emperor's cave mansions. With the mirage mirror broken, it was very likely that the mirage immortal emperor had died. This cave abode might just be some ruins. However, a lot of information could also be found in the ruins. Last time, when I talked to Tianshui Jinjuan, she mentioned that the northern part of Tianan province is the central province. This immortal's abode should be in the central continent. Li Yu nodded and put away the mirage mirror. With a flash of his body, he broke through the void and followed the karmic line all the way to the central region in the north of the southern heaven region. At Li Yu's level, he could already control the power of space as he wished. The horizon was like a foot away. With a single step, he could traverse the endless void. However, Li Yu's step didn't lead him to his destination. It's actually a different space? When Liu arrived at the northernmost part of the southern heaven region, he stood on a towering mountain that seemed to reach the sky. A trace of surprise appeared on his face. He suddenly discovered that the southern heaven region and the central region in the north were actually in different spaces. No wonder many immortal kings haven't left the southern heaven region. It's because to leave the southern heaven region, one has to break through the space barrier. With Li Yu's strength, a mere space barrier was naturally not a problem. He stretched out his finger and pointed at the invisible space barrier. A ripple of light rippled like water. Li Yu stepped out and silently penetrated the space barrier and appeared in a void. It was dark and silent. It was a void. Except for the raging space turbulence, there was nothing else. It turns out that I have to pass through this void to reach the central region. Although spatial turbulence was very terrifying, to Li Yu, it did not count as anything. Ignoring the space turbulence, Li Yu followed the karma link and walked directly in the void. When the raging space turbulence swept to Li Yu's side, it was like a stream of water hitting a mountain, splashing countless turbulence. Li Yu was naturally not affected in the slightest. He walked leisurely and broke through the void. Soon, a world that seemed to be shrouded in a soap bubble appeared in front of him. The space barrier is like a soap bubble enveloping the whole world. A soap bubble is a state. How many states are there in this world? Li Yu frowned slightly. He felt that the composition of the main world was a bit strange. This so-called state was very much like a separate world. Separate worlds, gathered together in the name of state, formed this main world as a whole? It seems that I have to spend some time studying the existence of the main world in the future. Li Yu always felt that the composition of this world was a bit strange. It seemed that there was something hidden behind it. The most important thing now was to find the cave mansion ruins of the Mirage Immortal Emperor. He walked to the front of the soap bubble and reached out to the space barrier. Like rippling water, Li Yu's figure instantly passed through the space barrier and came to the so-called central state. Demon, where are you running to? A dazzling lightning fell from the sky. The silver lightning was like a swimming dragon, snaking through the sky. In midair, a man in a Taoist robe, holding a long sword, pointed diagonally to the sky. The dazzling lightning condensed on the long sword, bursting out dazzling lightning. 9 heavens Xian Sha, turn into divine lightning. Brilliant heavenly might, lead with the sword. The sound of the curse shook the world, and the power of the lightning was strong and mighty. But, what the hell? Why does this sentence sound so familiar? Just after passing through the space barrier, Li Yu saw a righteous Jianghu person who seemed to be subduing demons. Li Yu naturally did not have the mind to pay attention to this kind of thing. But this sentence was too familiar. Divine Sword Lightning Controlling Technique. Blue Cloud Sect. Could it be, the so-called central state is actually related to Zhu Xian? But this power doesn't seem right? In front of him, the man in a Taoist robe floating in midair, slashed out with his sword. Thunder roared and heaven and earth shook. The sky was filled with lightning, and it actually turned into a vast sea of lightning. One after another, the lightning was like a real dragon, tearing apart the sky, destroying heaven and earth. Since when did Blue Cloud Sect's Divine Sword Lightning Controlling Technique have such fierce power? In Li Yu's impression of that world, the level of power should be very low. Even if it was a confrontation of the strongest power, it would only shatter a mountain. Compared to those worlds that could easily pierce through the earth, shatter stars, destroy worlds, and shatter galaxies, this little bit of power was simply insignificant. But this Divine Sword Lightning Controlling Technique in front of him was clearly an enhanced version? This so-called central state, is it really the world in my impression? Only the martial strength has increased by 1 level? His heart was full of doubts. Li Yu was also somewhat curious about this so-called central state. It seems that these states of the origin world, I'm afraid there are many secrets. Chapter 865. If I want to know more about Zhongzhou, I need to get in touch with the natives there. The Taoist priest in front of him was the perfect person to talk to. Therefore, Liu decided to help him and get some information from him. The demon that the Taoist priest was attacking was a giant wolf covered in bloodlight. This blood wolf seemed to be formed by the bloodlight. After being struck by lightning many times, its body was broken up again and again, but it was reformed again and again. It smells like the Azura demonic technique. Liu glanced at it and found that this blood wolf was similar to the blood god's son. It was between a physical body and an energy form. Although the power of lightning was constantly depleting the blood wolf's energy, it was not something that could be killed in a short time. Fellow Taoist, let me help you. Liu shouted and pulled out his sword. A grand and righteous aura rose into the air and soared into the sky. Grand and upright, like the sun rising from the east. Demon, take my sword. The sword slashed out like the sun in the sky, shining brilliantly and illuminating the world. Benevolence, integrity, wisdom, courage, righteous qi, cleansing the sky. Ah, a long and mournful howl. The giant blood-red wolf instantly vanished into thin air under the radiance that was as bright as the sun. Liu stood in the air, looking elegant and righteous. Anyone who saw him would praise him. What a young hero of the righteous path, what a young hero. Thank you for your help, fellow Taoist. The man in the Taoist robe in the air saw Liu's graceful and righteous appearance. He immediately had a good impression of Liu and greeted him with a smile on his face. I am Qing Su. Greetings, fellow Taoist. Thank you for your help just now. Otherwise, the blood demon would have wreaked havoc on the world. The young man in the Taoist robe landed in front of Liu and bowed, thanking Liu. I am Gu Chongqing. Liu smiled and returned the greeting. He was secretly laughing in his heart. Young Gu, it's your honor that I'm using your name. Using alternate accounts and wearing sock puppets had become Liu's habit. So it's Brother Gu. Taoist priest Qing Su smiled. Brother Gu's sword strike just now was just and honorable, like the sun rising from the east. Could it be the Hao Ran sect's sunrise sword art? That's not it. As a newcomer, Liu did not even know what Haoran sect was. Therefore, it was inappropriate for him to impersonate Haoran sect. He could only vaguely explain, "This is my family's swordsmanship, Haoran sword." Gu Chongqing's Haoran sword was originally a swordsmanship that Liu had casually created from the artistic conception of the Song of Morality. It was just right to use it here. Haoran sword? Taoist priest Qing Su blinked his eyes and cursed in his heart, "Brother, who doesn't know the Haoran sword of the Haoran sect? Wasn't the sunrise sword art one of the Haoran swords? You say it's not Haoran sect, but it's Haoran sword. What are you doing?" However, Taoist priest Qing Su could not pursue it. Since Gu Chongqing did not want to use the name of Haoran sect, then let him be. Brother Gu, did you come to the Luohan Mountains to gain experience? People of the Diabolism suddenly appeared in the Luohan Mountains. I'm afraid this experience will not be so easy. Brother Gu, why don't you and I go together? We can take care of each other. What do you think? Liu's righteousness had won Taoist priest Qing Su's deep trust. In addition, he guessed that Liu came from Haoran sect. Naturally, he wanted to invite Liu to go together. Haha. Liu smiled and thought, I don't have the time to play experience games with you guys. I've told you so much just to find some information from your memory. During this conversation, Liu silently copied a copy of Taoist priest Qing Su's soul memory. Young man, I'm not here to gain experience. With the memory in hand, Liu was not in the mood to talk nonsense with Taoist priest Qing Su. Meeting is fate. I'll give you an opportunity. With a flick of his finger, a majestic Haoran qi fell between Taoist priest Qing Su's eyebrows. Boom! Taoist priest Qing Su only felt a loud noise in his mind. Like the scorching sun hanging high, endless brilliance illuminated the entire soul sea of consciousness. There is righteousness in heaven and earth, and chaos gives form. Below is the river, above is the sun and the stars. A banner full of words slowly unfolded in Taoist priest Ching Su's mind. One by one, the brilliant words shone. Every stroke was like a sharp sword light. The Howren Chi soared into the sky. Howren's sword? Taoist priest Ching Su was dumbfounded. Senior, I'm a disciple of the righteous sect. You taught me the unique skill of the Howren sect. Should I learn it or not? If I learned the Howren sword, I could only betray the sect and join the Howren sect. This is deceiving the master and destroying the ancestors. If I don't learn it, this is the most powerful unique skill in the world. If I don't learn it, the heavens will not tolerate it. On one hand, deceiving the master and destroying the ancestors, on the other hand, the heavens will not tolerate it. At this moment, Taoist priest Ching Su's heart was in a dilemma. Big Boss Li said, "Do whatever you want. This central state is actually not the world I imagined." After copying a copy of Taoist priest Ching Su's memory, Li Yu was no longer ignorant of this zhongzhou. From Ching Su's memory, this zhongzhou was completely different from the world of Zhu Xian that Li Yu guessed. There was no blue cloud sect, no Zhang Xiaofan, and even the scenery of heaven and earth was completely different. It was not the same world at all. That lightning-controlling godly sword was created by the ancestor of the righteous sect? The ancestor of the righteous sect was also surnamed Zhang. What the hell, could it be that Zhang Xiaofan, that guy, transmigrated here? Well, the ancestor of the righteous sect had disappeared for God knows how many years. Even a transmigrator would not be able to find him. The level of power in Zhongzhou is also Heavenly Man, Heavenly Monarch, and Heavenly Master. The righteous sect where Ching Su was from had Heavenly Monarch in the past, but Heavenly Man has been rare these years. Li Yu shook his head. The memory that he obtained from Ching Su's mind was just common knowledge of the Jianghu. As for the Howren sect, it was the top Confucian sect in the world, and had Heavenly Monarch. However, the ancestor who wrote the Song of Righteousness and created the Howren sword was surnamed Wenshan, and was called Immortal Lushan. This name is very familiar. Wen Tianxiang, isn't that the name? First Zhang Xiaofan, then Wen Tianxiang. Is this zhongzhou a broken sieve? Has it been worn out? Li Yu was speechless. Well, even he himself had transmigrated here, so he had no right to criticize others. Maybe the Zhang Xiaofan and Wen Tianxiang who transmigrated here disappeared a long time ago? From Ching Su's memory, the ancestor of the righteous sect and the ancestor of the Howren sect had disappeared for countless years. If they were not dead, then they must have. They became heavenly masters and then went into hiding. Li Yu took a deep breath. A transmigrator, and he who was about to wake up. There were many secrets in this world. Let's not talk about anything else for now. I should go to the abode of the Mirage Immortal Emperor and take a look. Following the Karma link, Li Yu took a step forward, traversed the sky, and arrived at the top of a lofty mountain. Mirage Immortal Emperor, I hope you can leave behind some useful information. Li Yu waved his hand, opened the door of the abode, and stepped into the abode left behind by the Mirage Immortal Emperor. Chapter 866. There are also countless hidden Dharma arrays. Stepping into the cave abode, there were also countless layers of hidden Dharma arrays in front of him. How terrifying is that person who is about to wake up, to be able to scare an immortal emperor, who is also a heavenly venerate of this world, to this extent? Li Yu shook his head. At the immortal emperor level, everything was fake and only one was real. His ego had already been strengthened to the peak, so how could he still be scared to this extent? Shouldn't distracting thoughts like fear be easily cut off? Since even the Mirage Immortal Emperor is scared to this extent, that he must be unimaginably terrifying. I have to make preparations early. A sense of urgency arose in his heart. Liu realized that there were still a few mountains pressing down on his head. One was the system. If there was really a possible master behind the system, then that person would be Liu's greatest enemy. The other was naturally this he. To be able to scare all the immortal emperor heavenly venerates of the origin world to the point that they did not dare to show their faces and were all thinking of ways to hide, it must be unimaginably terrifying. I'm afraid it's not inferior to the guy who crippled an immortal emperor with a drop of blood from the heavenly emperor Huang in high heavens. Even with Liu's current cultivation and knowledge, it was difficult for him to understand what kind of power could cripple an immortal emperor with a drop of blood. What was the essence of that power? The darkness immortal emperor, who was eroded by the power of darkness, was still kept in the resource vault. However, the power of darkness was no longer the original drop of blood. Only the power of darkness at the immortal emperor level did not exceed the understanding of the essence of power. Shaking his head, Liu collected his thoughts and focused on the cave abode of the Mirage Immortal Emperor in front of him. The cave abode was not big, only a small space with a radius of 100 feet. As if to hide, the cave abode of the Mirage Immortal Emperor did not have the slightest bit of an Immortal Emperor atmosphere. It was much more shabby than the cave abodes of ordinary cultivators. There were no gorgeous decorations or grand atmosphere. Other than the layers of hidden Dharma arrays, there were only a few simple stone rooms. In the middle was the main hall, and there were small stone rooms on both sides. There were only 3 rooms in the cave abode of the Mirage Immortal Emperor. The main hall was the place to meditate and cultivate qi. It was empty except for a futon. Liu glanced around the main hall, but didn't find anything. No message. Liu was a little disappointed that he didn't find anything in the main hall. He continued to walk to the rooms on both sides. The room on the left was a bedroom. There was only a bed and nothing else in it. It can't be that nothing is left behind, right? After running such a long way, it can't be for nothing, right? Liu felt a little depressed as he walked towards the last room. Fortunately, there's something here. Stepping into the room, Liu saw a row of bookshelves in front of him and heaved a sigh of relief. There must be some information left behind in these books. Notes of the Mirage? Casually picking up a book, he saw the words Notes of the Mirage written on the cover. Liu's heart skipped a beat. He glanced at the bookshelf and saw that there were hundreds of books on it. They were all ancient legends and biographies. It seems that the Mirage Immortal Emperor is also studying what he is. Liu nodded. I'd like to see what he has studied. He reached out and opened the Notes of the Mirage. A line of messy and bloody handwriting appeared on the title page. It seemed to be written by the Mirage Immortal Emperor with his own blood. No one can escape. No one can escape. He's about to wake up. Why does he want to kill all the celestial venerables? I can't accept this. The blood-red words seemed to be filled with cries of despair. It was as if they were looking at an immortal emperor who was struggling desperately but still couldn't escape death. In the end, he let out an unwilling roar in despair. Kill all the celestial venerables? Liu's heart skipped a beat, and his hair stood on end. Could it be that all the celestial venerables in this world have been killed by that he? Then what about me? I'm also a celestial venerable. I'll definitely face this calamity. It's like a sharp sword is hanging over my head, and I don't know when it will fall. Once this sword falls, will I be like the Mirage Immortal, only able to roar in despair and unwillingness, powerless to do anything? No one can escape? I don't believe it. Clenching his fists, Liu let out a long breath. He reached out and opened the Mirage Immortal Emperor's notes. My name is Xing Lu. I was born in the Anyuan prefecture of Jiang province. I used the mirror flower water moon art to attain the Tao. People call me Empyrean Mirage. The first few pages were Empyrean Mirage Immortal's self-introduction. Liu glanced over, but didn't look at it in detail. All this time, I thought that the heavenly monarch realm was the highest realm in this world. Until one day, I suddenly had an epiphany. I realized the essence of reality and illusion. I understood the truth and illusion of the heart. I made a breakthrough. I was very happy, because I stepped onto a path that no one before me had stepped onto, and I opened up a new era. An era of celestial venerables. However, one day, I accidentally discovered a ruin, the ruin of an Empyrean mansion. At this time, I realized that I wasn't the first Empyrean. Then I began to think. Since I wasn't the first Empyrean, then where did all the Empyreans in this world go? I began to search. I traveled all over the world to find the truth. Finally, I found the truth. There was a terrifying devil hidden in this world. He was ferocious and bloody, and his demonic might was monstrous. He killed all the Empyreans. 800,000 years ago, the ancestral master of the righteous sect, the devil-rinsing Empyrean, was preaching in the main hall of the righteous sect. The sky suddenly darkened, and the devil-rinsing Empyrean disappeared without a trace, leaving only a pool of dirty blood. In the same year, the ancestral master of the Howran sect, Empyrean Lu Shan, suddenly let out a scream when he was in seclusion. He disappeared without a trace, leaving only a pool of dirty blood. In the same year, Wu-wei Tianzuan of the Southern Heaven State also disappeared, leaving only a pool of dirty blood. I found a lot of such secrets. In all the states in the world, almost all the surviving Empyreans disappeared in the same year, or even on the same day, leaving only a pool of dirty blood. I continued to search, almost going to all the places in the world. Finally, I discovered a truth. Every million years, all the Empyreans in the world will be killed and turned into dirty blood. It's like a ferocious beast. Every million years, it wakes up once and eats once. His food is the Empyreans. It's been 800,000 years since the last time he woke up. He is about to wake up. The notes ended here. Empyrean Mirage was in existence from millions of years ago. What time is it now? How long is there until the new 1 million year period? Liu closed the notes, his eyes shining, seeing through time. With Empyrean Mirage as the benchmark, the time was soon determined. Another 1 million year cycle is coming? At this moment, Liu's face was gloomy. Now, there were less than 10 years left from the 1 million year time limit. 10 years might be a long time to mortals, but to an eternal and indestructible existence like Liu, 10 years was a blink of an eye. Once that, he woke up, it would be an imminent disaster. I have to increase my strength as soon as possible. With a life and death crisis imminent, Liu was already very anxious in his heart. Chapter 867. On the Verge of Death. Compared to the sword light and net of the past, the present him was countless times more terrifying, countless times more savage. How terrifying was an existence that fed on Empyreans. The Empyreans recorded in the Mirage's notes were nothing more than pools of blood. This was the best proof of this. Liu could already imagine this scene in his mind. An unknown giant beast opened its mouth and swallowed. With a bite of its giant teeth, an Empyrean was swallowed up without any ability to resist, leaving behind only a pool of blood. Of course, it might not be a beast shape, but some other shape. But there was no difference. For me, if it was purely fleeing for my life, perhaps I could hide in another world. But since this him can even casually swallow an Empyrean, who knows if he has the ability to chase me to another world? Liu took a deep breath and pressed down on the hilt of the sword at his waist. More importantly, I cannot shrink back. Once he shrank back, once fear arose in his heart, his Tao heart would become unstable and he would not be able to advance any further. Then the final outcome would only be to wait for death. Like Empyrean mirage, he had been frightened to the point of being unable to find the light of day, but in the end, he still died. Since he was going to die, then, why not fight to the death? You want to eat me? Then we'll have to see how good your teeth are. With a shake of his wrist, the profound yellow sword left its scabbard. Sword energy that could annihilate all things soared into the sky. Although I've been behind the scenes for a long time, although I've always been playing tricks and scheming, the hot blood in my heart still hasn't cooled down. 10 years from now, a life and death duel. As if issuing a challenge, Li Yu's face was ice cold. He stood proudly, his hard spine not bending in the slightest. His fighting spirit soared to the heavens. A firm will, a fighting spirit that would never give up, an unyielding fighting spirit that had never disappeared. Taking a deep breath, Li Yu turned around and stepped out, returning to the immortal estate space. 10 years of time was already very tight. However, Li Yu had far more than 10 years to travel through the other world. 10 years was equivalent to 3,650 days. 1 day in the main world was 1 year in the other world. Li Yu still had 3,650 years. This period of time was enough for Li Yu to raise his strength to another level. When the time comes, let's see if your teeth are sharper or if my sword is sharper. Sheathing his sword, Li Yu returned to the main hall of the immortal mansion, ready to start a new round of his journey. With a life and death crisis right before his eyes, he had no time to waste. From now on, I can only stay in each world for 100 years at most. More than 100 years is a waste of time. 100 years in one world, and there were still more than 30 chances to travel to another world. Li Yu could also collect the laws of heaven and earth of over 30 worlds, as well as the power systems of over 30 worlds. With these accumulations, Li Yu was confident that he could advance his cultivation further. At that time, he would have to see what kind of person he was. System: open the next world. So far, he had completed the missions of 9 worlds. This world was the 10th one. The mission of the 10 worlds was completed, and the system's authority level had been upgraded. Hopefully, there would be a new surprise. Although the existence of the system could also be dangerous, compared to the current crisis, the system's danger was still in the guesswork stage. Now Li Yu had to face the he of the main world, so he could not care about the possible dangers of the system. With a command, the familiar roulette once again appeared in front of Li Yu. On the roulette, there were many grids showing all kinds of worlds. Li Yu was not in the mood to look carefully. With a wave of his hand, the roulette rapidly rotated. Stop! The roulette abruptly stopped. Sorcerer God? The world in front of him made Li Yu slightly stunned. It's actually this world. The world of the Sorcerer God and the desolate world that Li Yu was familiar with had some similarities. It was also the creation of heaven and earth by Pangu, and it also had the 3 pure ones. However, the power system of this world was divided into the sorcerer, who cultivated the body, the chi cultivator, who cultivated the primordial spirit, and the invaders from other worlds who were born with divine abilities. This was a vast and boundless universe. The world that Pangu created was only one of the countless worlds. In the boundless void there were many worlds. There were even some worlds that had not completed their evolution and were still in the state of primordial chaos. For me, comprehending the primordial chaos and the creation of heaven and earth will help me further speed up the cultivation of the origin of primordial chaos. Li Yu was also very interested in this sorcerer god's era. Whether it is the divine abilities of the other races, or the cultivation methods of the 3 races of Pangu, dragon, phoenix, and human, they are all worth learning. Of course, the biggest benefit is that I can find the creator of heaven and earth in this world. This is very valuable to me. In this world, there were creators who had invaded Pangu continent, creators who had died, creators who only had remnant souls left, and creators who were still in the process of being born. These were all harvests. If he caught them and studied them fiercely, he would understand the process of the birth of order in the primordial chaos and the principle of life in the primordial chaos. It would be very valuable for Li Yu to cultivate the origin of primordial chaos. I have already obtained a copy of my understanding of primordial chaos from the Lord of Heaven. However, this is still not enough. Only by studying and arguing from many sides can I obtain the most correct answer. Comprehending the primordial chaos was like a blind man touching an elephant. Everyone had their own understanding. However, what Li Yu needed was not such a one-sided understanding, but a comprehensive understanding of primordial chaos. If he wanted to transform into primordial chaos, he naturally had to figure out what primordial chaos was. Perhaps this world alone was far from enough. However, this would still allow Li Yu to accumulate a sufficient amount of experience. Let's go. With a thought, Li Yu's figure instantly disappeared, and he embarked on a new journey. Time and space changed, and in an instant, he had changed into another world. In front of him was a bustling modern city. The lights were brilliant and the traffic was heavy. This was a city at night. More importantly, the people who walked on the road were all barbarians with deep eyes, long noses, and thick hair of all colors. I've actually come to the era before the protagonist traveled back in time? A light flashed, and Li Yu's figure instantly turned into nothingness, hiding his traces. Boom! Lightning flashed, and dark clouds rolled. Torrential rain poured down, and in an instant, a layer of rainwater accumulated on the ground. The sky gradually darkened, and a hazy mist filled the air, making the whole world even darker. Only in the center of the city, there was a building made of glass, shaped like a pyramid, and bright lights illuminated the sky. That's the place where the protagonist came to fight for the treasure. Li Yu's figure floated past, and flew toward the glass building. Silently floating into the glass building, Li Yu saw the antiques displayed inside were obviously of the divine prefecture's style, and a wave of anger rose in his heart. Especially when he saw the 1-foot-tall 5-colored 3-legged cauldron with dragons and phoenixes entwined around it, Li Yu was even more furious. You barbarians, how dare you covet the treasures of the divine prefecture? You're courting death. Chapter 868. After the protagonist travels back in time, I'll deal with you. This place was the key point for the protagonist to take back the treasure of the divine land and travel back in time. Li Yu could not destroy it for the time being. He waited quietly. The night was getting darker and the thunderstorm was getting heavier. Amidst the hazy mist, a piece of mist suddenly floated silently, slowly drifting towards the glass building. Swoosh! Lines of water sprang up like poisonous snakes and instantly wrapped around the necks of the patrolling soldiers around the glass building. As the water lines tightened, the soldiers fell down silently. Water manipulation technique? That's something. Li Yu looked at the drifting mist and the lines of water and nodded with a smile. As expected of a main character. In this Dharma-ending age, he can still create a chi refinement technique that cultivates the primordial spirit. At this time, the mist had drifted to the entrance of the glass building. Another stream of water gushed up like a sharp blade, instantly cutting into the gaps of the glass building. The cables were cut off by the water blade. Except for the lights, all the other security devices were useless. I must take back the cultural relics unearthed in the ancient capital of Liangzhu of the Divine Land. The mist shook slightly and a figure appeared. It was a young man. He was wearing a black suit and was tall and slender. He was handsome. His body, which was not very strong, contained a terrifying power. He was the man known as the strongest human in the world, codenamed Azure Dragon. The Dragon and Phoenix Cauldron. It's really here. Azure Dragon immediately saw the 1-foot-long ancient cauldron on a crystal glass stand in the center of the glass building. However, There were also dozens of skeletons that seemed to be cast from gold in the exhibition stands around the ancient cauldron, shining with golden light. What surprised Azure Dragon was that there was an oval-shaped hole between the eyebrows of these skeletons. 3 eyes? A vertical eye between the eyebrows? The appearance of these skeletons was somewhat similar to the legendary figures of the ancient myth. Azure Dragon stared at them for a while. He pulled out his dagger and cut the golden skeleton. The sound of metal hitting metal was heard. "It's so hard." Azure Dragon was slightly shocked. The dagger in his hand was made of a special alloy, but it could not leave any mark on the skeleton. It seemed that the origins of these skeletons were not simple. Azure Dragon secretly praised in his heart. He no longer paid attention to these skeletons and turned to walk in front of the 5-colored ancient cauldron. The cauldron is a national treasure. Such a precious treasure of the divine prefecture naturally cannot fall into the hands of barbarians. Azure Dragon reached out and pressed his hand on the glass display case where the 5-colored ancient cauldron was stored. He frowned slightly. A bulletproof glass more than a foot thick? What a tight security! Raising his head and looking at the side door, Azure Dragon chuckled again. "Hey, if you don't come out, I'll take my things and leave." Mr. Azure Dragon is indeed extraordinary. The side door opened and a team of more than 20 armed figures walked out from behind the door. Walking at the front was a cold-looking woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. She held a jade sword in her hand. However, Mr. Qinglong shouldn't have come this time. The blonde woman sneered with the jade sword in her hand. "Mr. Azure Dragon, I'm afraid even you don't understand how terrifying your ancestors' things are." The jade sword vibrated slightly, and a gust of wind sounded. A huge crack was silently cut open on the 5-inch thick alloy steel plate on the ground. This sword once cut an armored car in half. "I have to say that your Huaxia antiques are unimaginably powerful." The blonde woman pointed the jade sword at Azure Dragon. "Unfortunately, the treasures left by your ancestors now belong to us. The strongest human on Earth, you. Can you block this sword? No matter how sharp the sword is, it has to be able to hit its target." Azure Dragon chuckled and pressed his hand. Crash! The crystal display case where the 5-colored ancient cauldron was placed shattered into pieces. Hiss! Seeing this, the blonde woman and the others took a deep breath. The bulletproof glass more than a foot thick was shattered with just a touch? The strongest human on Earth was indeed terrifying. The 5-colored ancient cauldron is indeed a precious treasure of the divine prefecture. Azure Dragon reached out and grabbed the 5-colored ancient cauldron in his hand. A tremor arose spontaneously, as if the bloodline resonated, rose in his heart. Holding this ancient cauldron, Azure Dragon felt that he was holding the whole world, the whole universe in his hand. Of course it's the whole universe. "Young man, you're holding Pangu in your hand." Liu smiled and nodded slightly. This 5-colored cauldron contained Pangu's remnant soul after the creation of the world. This was Azure Dragon's golden finger. Liu naturally wouldn't interfere. "Mr. Azure Dragon, do you think you've won?" The blonde woman knew that even if she had the unreasonably sharp jade sword in her hand, she was no match for Azure Dragon in close combat. However, she still had a backup plan. With a sneer, the girl took out a roll of golden bamboo slips and opened it. Boom! With an earth-shattering roar, dozens of golden skeletons sitting cross-legged on the display case shot out a bloody light from the 3 dark eye sockets on their heads. Buzz! The bloody light intertwined and formed a bloody array, firmly imprisoning Azure Dragon inside. No matter how hard Azure Dragon struggled, he couldn't get rid of it. "Do you see? This is your ancestors' thing. It's called array." "Yes, that's the name." The blonde woman raised the jade sword in her hand and sneered. "Mr. Azure Dragon, tell me, can I cut you now?" "Damn it." Azure Dragon was furious. "It's an item of the divine prefecture, but these barbarians used it against me. How hateful." The strongest man on earth. I wonder if you'll die after I cut off your head? The blonde woman's face was ferocious, and the jade sword in her hand was raised high. Boom! Crack! At this moment, a clap of thunder sounded in the sky. Endless lightning flashed and dark clouds rolled in the sky. Between the lightning and the dark clouds, there seemed to be an unimaginably huge snake stirring the wind and clouds and shaking the world. Niwa, you're finally here. Is this the person you've chosen? You and Pangu chose him at the same time to let him reverse time and space and change the ending? Looking at the churning thunderclouds in the sky and the enormous snake body, Li Yu's face was full of smiles. Crack! A purple thunderbolt fell from the sky, and endless lightning swept toward the crystal building. Boom! The violent roar was earth-shattering, as if the earth was going to be penetrated. The huge glass building was instantly shattered. The golden skeletons instantly burst into powder, and the blonde woman and the others were vaporized. Everything was annihilated and turned into dust. Even Azure Dragon's body dissipated at this moment. The five-colored ancient cauldron rolled and rolled up Azure Dragon's divine soul and rushed into the purple thunderbolt. After the thunderbolt dissipated, the five-colored ancient cauldron and Azure Dragon's divine soul had disappeared without a trace. Time travel? Li Yu nodded. Then I'll go too. Turning his head to look at the barbarian land, Li Yu frowned again. He pointed to the sky and used the order origin to trigger the Tao of heaven and earth. In the name of order, if any barbarian touches the cultural relics of the divine prefecture, he will be punished by the heavens. The Tao of heaven and earth was the Tao of heaven and earth. From this moment on, all the barbarians who plundered and occupied the cultural relics of the divine prefecture died in various accidents. Someone was discussing this book? It was only half written. It was still too early. It was just a foreshadowing in advance. Chapter 869. So this is the primordial era. After fusing the characteristics of the Tao fruit into his origin, traveling through time had become extremely easy. Silently, Li Yu crossed the river of time and arrived in the primordial era. This was different from the earth-shaking commotion caused by Celestial Emperor Huang. With the Tao fruit's micromanipulation characteristics, Li Yu's reversal of time and return to the primordial era was completely silent and effortless. Before him was a vast expanse of desolate land. On this vast and boundless land, mountains towered, ancient trees towered into the sky, and ferocious beasts howled and roared. What was even more surprising was that there were small floating islands in the air. Shrouded in clouds and mist, it was like an immortal paradise. This kind of floating island terrain is rather interesting. Li Yu's figure flickered, and he instantly landed on one of the floating islands high in the sky. Clouds and mist swirled around him, giving him a somewhat ethereal appearance. Looking up at the horizon, Li Yu's gaze pierced through the void and took in the entire world. There are 5 continents. East, west, south, and north are all the great wilderness. The Central Plains was originally the center of human civilization, but alas, it's been invaded by another world. Li Yu could already see that the vast Central Plains was currently engulfed in the flames of war. Scenes of slaughter could be seen everywhere. On one side was the well-equipped alien race, and on the other was the human race, who didn't even have a complete set of weapons and armor. Although I don't want to admit it, but in truth, the human race of this world, whether it's in terms of civilization or technology, is still very far behind the alien race. Those alien races were invaders from another world. Given the current situation, Li Yu felt that it was a little like the Americas of the Age of Discovery. The alien race was equivalent to the Europeans of the Age of Discovery, and the human race of this world was equivalent to the Indians of the Americas. No wonder the battle was so difficult, no wonder the alien race had not been pushed back after so many years. No wonder Niwa and Pangu had set their sights on the Azure Dragon from the future. The young man favored by the heavens, the future savior, is you? Liu turned his head and looked down. Outside a fiery red mulberry forest, on a floating island that wasn't too high, stood an 11 or 12-year-old boy. It was a very boorishly dressed young man. His chest was bare, his hair loose, a piece of animal skin wrapped around his waist, and a necklace of animal teeth hung around his neck. Although his tall and straight figure and handsome face added a bit of handsomeness, the beast's sex outfit made him exuded a ferocious aura. Squatting beside the youth was a gigantic 300-foot-long pitch-black crow with feathers that were like black iron. It was a crow. Alright, this was the main character. Back in time, the strongest man on Earth was now a young man from the Fire Crow clan in the southern wasteland, named Ji Hao. Is it true that everyone with the name Hao is awesome? For example, Sure Hao or this Ji Hao? Liu smiled and shook his head. In this world, there is no one who can understand the joke of fuck the heavens. Looking at the young man named Ji Hao, Liu's face was full of smiles. Of course, the reason why he was smiling was not because of Ji Hao, but because, Pangu, I am going to trick you, I think you won't mind. Yes, Liu was going to trick Pangu. If the Pangu of this world was in his heyday, his strength should not be inferior to Liu's. However, the current Pangu was only left with a divine soul. More importantly, the Pangu of this world. He didn't know how to cultivate the primordial spirit. Just thinking about it made him want to cry. The dignified god of creation, the great being who created the world, was actually a boorish man. His body was incomparably strong, and his divine soul was incomparably huge, but he didn't know how to cultivate the primordial spirit. As a result, he was tricked miserably. I want to study the primordial chaos, and the memories of Pangu's divine soul are naturally worth learning from. Another reason is that the Pangu of this world has the Jade Disc of Fortune. What was the Jade Disc of Fortune? According to Liu, it was the manifestation of all the laws of heaven and earth in this Pangu world. Such a thing was right in front of him, and it was really too difficult to stop Liu from trying to steal it. I just want to learn from it, I won't steal it from you. Liu chuckled, and his figure flashed, instantly turning into nothingness. In the next moment, Liu, who had turned into nothingness, silently came to the side of the beast faction youth. Don't worry, it doesn't hurt at all. With a strange smile on his face, Liu pointed his finger, and time stopped, and everything returned to stillness. With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept across, and the youth disappeared in an instant, taken into the resource vault by Liu. In the blink of an eye, Liu made a copy of all the laws of heaven and earth contained in the Jade Disc of Good Fortune from Pangu's soul memories. This azure dragon actually has such talent? Liu was about to release the youth again, but he discovered that in the youth's memories, there was also a cultivation technique called the 9 Words Mantra. In the Age of Doom, he actually created such a cultivation technique? Although it is still crude, it is still very extraordinary. Liu discovered that the Azure Dragon, self-created, 9 Words Mantra pill scripture actually originated from Lin Bing Doge. Lin Bing Doja and Lin Bing Doja and Lin Bing Doja and Lin Bing Doja and Lin Bing Doja. I'm still thinking about how to end this karma. Since you have the 9 Words Mantra, I might as well teach you the 9 secret. With a flick of his finger, the 9 secrets of that world was sent into the youth's soul by Liu. All right, karma is settled. With a wave of his hand, the youth was released once again. Liu's figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. Ugh! Just now. When time flowed again, the youth suddenly felt a sense of panic. He vaguely felt that something had happened, but it also felt like nothing had happened. Old man, did something happen just now? Ji Hao asked Pangu, who was hiding in the depths of his sea of consciousness. As the strongest man on earth, and the Azure Dragon, who had experienced countless schemes and schemes, he didn't really trust this old man who always followed him around. It's been more than 10 years, and our great god Pangu still hasn't been able to trick Ji Hao over. Big Boss Li. He was extremely sympathetic. You chose the wrong host. This kind of person with a rich life experience was not so easy to fool. No. Great God Pangu's divine soul stood on the good fortune jade disc and answered with certainty. In fact, speaking of which, it was all tears. The dignified great god Pangu had a powerful divine soul, but he didn't know any methods to cultivate the primordial spirit. He couldn't unleash the power of his divine soul at all. He had even been thinking about the youth's self-created, 9 words mantra for 10 years. Even now, this guy still hadn't relented. Even if it was an exchange of cultivation techniques, he wouldn't do it. Thinking of me. Sigh with a long sigh, Pangu remained silent. The path of deception. It was still very long. Chapter 870. Little guy, what do you think of my previous proposal? Pangu did not give up and started to trick him again. My heaven-mending no-leak true technique allows you to refine all things and strengthen yourself. Your body is so weak now, if you learn my technique, you will have strength that surpasses that of a true dragon cub. Yes, that's right. I can also give you the bloodline of the dragon and phoenix clans. The dragon clan has Pangu's strong physical talent, the phoenix clan has Pangu's enormous soul talent, and the human clan has Pangu's unlimited potential. When the 3 are combined, you will have a trace of Pangu's true body characteristics. I will use this to exchange for the 9 syllables technique. How about it? Unfortunately, the higher the price Pangu offered, the greater the suspicion in the youth's heart. You are already so powerful, you can take out such an awesome thing, why do you want my 9 syllables? Either you are bullshitting. Either my 9 syllables mantra has an unimaginable value, or my 9 syllables mantra has a value beyond imagination. In this way, Ji Hao was even less interested in Pangu's proposal. Thus, Pangu cried and fainted in the toilet. Does my 9 syllables really hide a big secret? Even the old guy hiding in the sea of consciousness is so interested. This technique that I created must be very valuable. Thinking so, the 9 syllables secret technique flowed in Ji Hao's heart. Then Ji Hao's body trembled, only to feel that his mind was free, detached from the shackles of his body, and roamed in the endless Tao of heaven and earth. At this moment, countless insights surged in his heart. Lin can summon spirits born by heaven and earth. Bing can control all weapons in the world. Fighting can develop all methods with one method. Being can absorb the vitality of heaven and earth to recover oneself. All can stack attacks, exploding multiple attacks at once. Formation can control all the formations in the world. Lai can control all the runes in the world. Qian can see the opportunity. Yes, can increase speed. The instant epiphany allowed Ji Hao to understand a lot. This is epiphany? There is actually the legendary epiphany? Actually subliming the 9 syllables to such a level? Ji Hao was wild with joy. Big Boss Li said, "Young man, you think too much. The so-called epiphany. Isn't it because I let you have the epiphany? Do you think you're the one who had an epiphany?" Of course, Ji Hao didn't know that he had been enlightened. He thought that he was enlightened by himself. My 9 words mantra is not simple at all. It was not simple at all. No wonder that old man was so interested. No wonder he was willing to spend so much money. But, it's not a bad idea to give him the original version in exchange for some benefits. Now that he had a better version of the mantra Dan with 9 secret words, he didn't value the original version too much. In this way, Liu had unknowingly helped Pangu. I need time to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth contained in the jade disk of fortune and Pangu's divine soul memories. It was not that easy to comprehend primal chaos. Liu planned to settle down and spend some time digesting the benefits he got from Pangu. However, I still have to complete the system mission in this world. The so-called system mission was naturally to create a system and then find a host. Who should I find? The southern wasteland was the territory of the fire god Zhu Rong. The Fire Crow clan used to be called the Gold Crow clan, which was one of the top clans in the southern wasteland. Unfortunately, its power had been declining over the years, and it had become a subordinate of the Baifeng clan. Of course, this was not a problem. The problem was, the Fire Crow clan's people were practicing the Tao of Magus. A strong and sturdy physique, this was what people pursued. As for brains, well, let's avoid this problem for now. The Fire Crow clan is the territory of berserkers. It's not easy to find someone with a good brain. Liu shook his head and gave up on the idea of choosing someone from the Fire Crow clan. The Fire Crow clan's people were all brawny and muscular, and looked like little giant. They didn't even fit Liu's taste. Then I can only choose from other small clans. Liu glanced at thousands of clans in the southern wasteland. Is this the Qing-Yi clan? Liu saw a clan that had the power of wood. The Magi were mainly using poisons, while the warriors were mainly using agile archers and assassins. The people of this clan were slim and well-proportioned. They weren't muscular or skinny, which was more in line with Liu's taste. More importantly, the archers weren't like berserkers, who would pick up their axes and charge forward. They wouldn't be so stupid as to be killed by others. Is the mother of the main character from the Qing-Yi clan? Liu nodded and said, That's good. The host won't have any conflicts with the main character. Otherwise, what if the host kills the main character? Then I'll have to fight with Nuwa and her people. In a place like the southern wasteland, it was very common for human clans to fight each other to death. Nuwa had finally found the savior of the world. If the savior was killed by Liu's host, Nuwa would risk her life. Making a fortune quietly was Liu's way of development. If he fought with these powerful people all the way, it wouldn't be a problem for him to win. However, Liu didn't have the time to comprehend the chaos and improve his power. Therefore, finding a host in the Qing-Yi clan was in line with Liu's requirements. Liu's body flashed, and he arrived at the encampment of the Qing-Yi clan in the blink of an eye. Forests, wooden houses, flowers and plants were everywhere. The scene in front of Liu made him feel as if he had come to an elf clan. Swoosh! On the training field, a group of teenagers were shooting arrows at the target in front of them with simple wooden bows. The Qing-Yi clan was indeed famous for their archery skills. Even a group of 10-year-old teenagers could shoot with great precision and never miss their target. Except, a sharp arrow flew diagonally into the sky, missing the target by several hundred feet. It was unknown where it had shot to. Ha! Seeing that the arrow missed the target by thousands of miles, the group of teenagers burst into laughter. The thin body of the teenager who had shot the arrow was trembling, but he still held the longbow tightly and stood straight. Qingming Yu Sai. The young man who was responsible for teaching the group of teenagers walked up to the teenager named Qingming, patted the teenager's shoulder and sighed. Qingming, your eyes. You should go back and have a rest. Wait until the next great ceremony. Maybe the ancestor's soul will find a way to heal your eyes. The young man shook his head and sighed. A trace of pity appeared on his face. This young man named Qingming was very hard-working, but his eyes were blind. An archer must have a pair of sharp eyes. This was the most basic requirement. Qingming, who had lost his eyesight, could never become an archer. In fact, he had no value at all in the tribe. It was hard to survive in the southern wasteland. A disabled person who couldn't contribute to the clan would be abandoned by the clan sooner or later. The so-called ancestor's soul's divinity could never restore his eyesight. How important was the great ceremony? How could they waste such an opportunity just for Qingming's eyesight? If there was no miracle, this young man named Qing Ming would die without a trace. However, am I not a miracle maker? Li Yu nodded with a smile. He was very satisfied with this teenager. Chapter 871. Uncle Qing, thank you. Although Qing Ming knew that Qing was just comforting him, he remained silent for a while, then smiled and nodded, then raised his bow again. This time, he didn't put an arrow on the bow, but only pulled it open. Again and again, he pulled the bow open. Although there was no light in his grayish-white eyes, his young face was still full of determination. Qing Ming didn't drag his tired body back to his house until the sun had set, when he knew that everyone had left. He walked very slowly. Even though it was a village he was already familiar with, even though he had walked this path countless times, he still walked very carefully. After all, he couldn't get hurt anymore. In the southern wasteland, it was very hard for the human race to survive. Even in the Qing Yi clan, which was rich in medicines, healing medicines were very precious, and could be exchanged for all kinds of resources. No one would give such precious medicines to a disabled person. Although it was cruel, this was the law of survival in the southern wasteland. In this place, where wars and death could happen any time, it was very hard to survive. If my eyes can be restored, if... Qing Ming clenched his fists and let out a long breath. He also had the dream to travel across the wasteland, and he also had the ambition to travel across the world. However, after he lost his eyesight, all of this became a fantasy. The great ancestor soul ceremony, there is no chance. Qing Ming slightly shook his head. He knew that the great ancestor soul ceremony was very important to the clan. Countless sacrifices were made in order to improve the power of the clan, so that the clan could survive in the wasteland. They couldn't waste this opportunity on Qing Ming. In fact, there are a few ways to restore my eyesight. One is to improve my power to the level of senior magus. With the life force of a senior magus, I can definitely restore my eyesight. However, without enough medicines and crystals, it would be impossible for him to reach the level of senior magus. The other ways, such as the medicine to regrow his limbs, were also very expensive, and he couldn't afford them at all. Even the entire wealth of the clan couldn't afford one of these medicines. Am I going to sink into despair like this and eventually die miserably? I can't accept this. Qing Ming groped his way to his house, then let out a long breath, with a heavy heart. When he pushed the door open, Qing Ming found that he could see again. He saw something. It was a small tree. It was a small tree that was more than 3 meters tall. It was completely green and exuded a vigorous vitality. Its aura was as vast as the sea. Other than the tree, he still couldn't see anything else. What is this? A tree that he could see was definitely not an ordinary tree. Moreover, the small tree's aura was even more powerful and vast than the aura of the ancestral spirit. A guardian spirit that's even stronger than the ancestor spirit? At this moment, Qing Ming's heart was filled with anticipation. If this was a guardian spirit that was even stronger than the ancestral spirit, then would it be able to restore my vision? Qing Ming greets the guardian spirit. Facing this small tree, Qing Ming respectfully bowed. The bloodline of the Qing Yi tribe was of the wood element. Their ancestors had inherited the bloodline power of a sacred tree, which gave them the power of the wood element. Therefore, the Qing Yi tribe was respectful to the sacred tree. I am Jinmu. Young man blessed by fate, what is your wish? After Qing Ming bowed, a dignified voice echoed in his mind. Jinmu? Qing Ming trembled. As a member of the wood element race, how could Qing Ming not have heard of the Jinmu? Legend had it that the original Emperor Qing was the spirit of the Jinmu. This small tree in front of him was actually the Jinmu? The sovereign of wood. The ancestor of all wood. The origin of all plants. Greetings, Wood Emperor. Qing Ming hurriedly bowed, then looked at the Jianmu with a face full of hope. Lord Wood Emperor, can you fulfill my wish? I want to restore my vision. Can I? Restore your vision? That's simple. The dignified voice sounded again. I will bestow upon you a pair of eyes that surpass the mortal world, and I will bestow upon you the power to surpass all living beings. In exchange for this, you must offer me your offerings. From now on, I will take 90% of all your prey. Are you willing? Can I really restore my vision? Qing Ming's body trembled, and he was overjoyed. He hurriedly agreed. Yes, yes. In that case, the contract is complete. With a flash of green light, the Jianmu turned into a beam of green light and rushed into Qing Ming's forehead. Rumble! There was a loud sound in his mind. A huge green tree that reached the heavens and the earth stood tall in his sea of consciousness. Endless radiance shone, illuminating the entire sea of consciousness. This is the pair of eyes that you want. 2 spots of light flew out from the huge tree, crossing the distance between illusion and reality, and instantly fell into Qing Ming's eyes that were already dead silent. It was as if a warm stream of water was washing his eyes. In an instant, a huge force exploded in his eyes. Swoosh! 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes, like 2 light pillars, and shot out more than 10 feet. When the radiance dissipated, a miracle happened. Qing Ming realized he could see again. The sky was full of stars, and the river of stars was flowing. Around him, huge trees stood tall, verdant and green. Even within the tribe, the lights that were lit up everywhere were so bright and beautiful. More importantly, he could see very far. The distance that he could see had already surpassed everyone in the tribe. He could even see the nest of buzzing bees at the edge of the cliff that was 10 miles away. Even when he focused his eyes on one of the bees, he realized that the movement of the bee flapping its wings became very slow. Moving his eyes, it was as if time had slowed down. In Qing Ming's eyes, everything became very slow. More importantly, he could feel that there was still a huge amount of power in his eyes. Lord Wood Emperor, the pair of eyes that you gave me, are they? Qing Ming was so satisfied with the pair of eyes that he was shocked. Natural phenomenon, Saint's double eyes. This is a pair of eyes, and it has a power that is beyond your imagination. The branches and leaves of the enormous Jinmu tree swayed, and a light screen appeared in Qing Ming's mind. I have countless treasures and godly items. Double-eyed is just one of them. On the light screen, there were countless magical treasures, peerless skills, and secret techniques. Seeing these, Qing Ming opened his mouth wide and couldn't close it for a long time. You are still too weak now. I will give you 2 secret techniques. You have to quickly increase your strength so that you can get prey and offer them to me. Another radiance shot out from the Jianmu and entered Qing Ming's divine soul. Stealth technique? Poison tempering technique? Needless to say, the stealth technique was a concealment technique. As for the poison tempering technique, it was a technique to refine poison. It could extract the poison from extremely poisonous objects and use it to temper weapons. Alright, our Imperial Majesty Yu Huang is treating Qing Ming like an assassin to play with. Chapter 872. Giving you the pair of eyes and the magic consumed my power. In his head, the majestic voice came again. Go hunting. You have to get enough prey and offer it to me. Oh, okay. Qing Ming came back to his senses and hurriedly nodded. In the southern wasteland, where survival was hard, there was no such thing as a free lunch. If you got something, you had to pay for it. That was natural. Since he had gotten the pair of eyes and the magic from the Wood Emperor, he had to report it to the Wood Emperor. Qing Ming surely understood this. Picking up the bow and arrow, Qing Ming darted out of the house. He activated the sneaking magic and hid himself in the darkness, silently sneaking out of the clan's residence. Even the senior Magus leader of the night patrol didn't notice Qing Ming's trace. The magic given by the Wood Emperor is so powerful. Qing Ming was overjoyed. He was now at the third level of novice magi, which was totally different from the senior magi. However, under the sneaking magic, even a senior magus couldn't find him, which was terrifying. After the 12th level of novice magi, the next level would be junior magi, then senior magi. It was hard to imagine that Qing Ming could still hide from a senior magus with the difference of a few levels. Big Boss Li said that the magi in this world didn't cultivate their souls. They were not able to resist this kind of invisible magic, which could deceive people's senses and spirit power. The night was boundless. The night in the southern wasteland was undoubtedly very dangerous. However, under Qing Ming's eyes, the pitch-black forest was as bright as day, and he could see everything clearly. The Qing Yi clan was born with the power of wood, which was more suitable for living in the jungle. Qing sticks moved stealthily all the way and quietly approached the territory of a single-horned bear. It was a tenjong-long gigantic beast. Its great power and sharp claws made it the dominator of this jungle. A wild beast that is almost at the level of senior magi. If I didn't have any magic, I wouldn't even be able to get close to it. Qing Ming reached out his hand, took out the longbow and put a dark green arrow on it, then slowly pulled the bow open. Without a doubt, the arrow had been poisoned. Even the shamans in the tribe who specialized in refining medicine did not dare to touch the poison of the soul-breaking grass. However, with the help of the poison tempering technique, Qing Ming easily extracted the poison from the soul-breaking grass. Swish! The sharp arrow left the bowstring, whistling through the air. Roar! The sharp whistling sound that tore through the sky alarmed the barbaric bear, and it roared as it instantly scurried up. Then it stared, its bare eyes wide open as it looked in all directions to search for an enemy that might exist. The horned bear didn't care about this arrow in the slightest. Barbarian Bear, who lived near the Blue Barbarian tribe, had seen countless arrows. Any attack launched by a non-senior level magus would only be able to scratch its skin a little bit, and wouldn't be able to hurt it even a little bit. However, this arrow was completely different from the previous ones. Just a scratch on the skin would be enough. Ding! When the arrow hit the bear's thick fur, it made a sound as if it hit a rock. The sharp arrow pierced through the thick fur and left a scratch on the barbarian bear's body before falling to the ground. It was just a scratch, less than an inch long. Aw! The horned bear let out a shrill and miserable cry as it fell to the ground with a plop. The soul-breaking grass's poison is indeed terrifying. Qing Ming was very happy. This was his first real hunting experience. He had hunted a horned bear. I am not a disabled man anymore. I am finally not a disabled man anymore. I am not a freeloader anymore. Qing Ming clenched his fists and yelled in his heart. He couldn't wait to prove to everyone that he, Qing Ming, was no longer a useless man. The prey is not bad, keep up the good work. When Qing Ming walked up to the horned bear, the voice in his head reminded him that he only had 10% of this prey, and 90% of it had to be offered to the Wood Emperor. Wasn't it too bad? Liu thought to himself, mine is still good. 99% of the so-called fixing the sky given to him by Pan Gu went to Pan Gu, and only 1% of it went to him. My share is 10 times more generous than Pan Gu's. Wood Emperor, this is the offering for you. Of course, Qing Ming knew about the offering ceremony in his clan. The Wood Emperor in his body must be the same as the ancestor's soul in his clan. Not bad. Qing Ming praised, then a green light flashed across the air and pierced into the horned bear's body like root. In the blink of an eye, the horned bear's enormous body disappeared, leaving only a bit of ash. This is your share. Once Qing Ming finished speaking, a great stream of blood power surged towards Qing Ming like a raging tide. Qing Ming let out a muffled moan. He felt as if there was a stream of lava boiling inside his body, as if a volcano would erupt at any time, and his entire body would explode into ashes. You can't even handle this little bit of power? Qing Ming slightly waved the branch of the world tree, and the boiling blood power inside his body calmed down immediately. Why don't you start your cultivation? Yes. Qing Ming hurriedly started the cultivation method of the Qing Yi clan. His meridians lit up one after another, ceaselessly absorbing the power inside his body. TSK, what kind of crappy cultivation method is this? You are a human being, but you have the Wood clan's bloodline? And you are cultivating the meridians of the Wood clan? The human race, one of the 3 clans of Pangu, has become like this. You are putting the cart before the horse. While Qing Ming was cultivating, the disdainful sneer of the Wood Emperor rang out. Wood Emperor, is there something wrong with the cultivation method I am cultivating? Qing Ming was stunned, and his head was full of confusion. The cultivation method I am cultivating is the cultivation method of the Qing Yi clan that has been passed down for countless years. Why is it called a crappy cultivation method by the Wood Emperor? As for the 3 clans of Pangu, Qing Ming didn't understand what it meant at all. Alright, let me explain it to you. Back then, the human race chose this path because of the first Emperor Qing. The Wood Emperor sighed. The human race, the dragon race, and the phoenix race all have the bloodline of Pangu. The dragon race, the phoenix race, and the human race are called the 3 clans of Pangu. However, the human race inherited the potential of Pangu, and was born with very weak strength. When the human race was first born, they became the food of all the carnivorous races in the desolate land. In order to find a way to survive, the human race came to the Green Emperor for help. The Green Emperor showed them a way, which was to worship some naturally powerful races and merge their bloodlines. So the Gold Crow clan, the Baifeng clan, the Rosefinch clan, the Qing Yi clan, and all kinds of human clans were born. I see. Hearing the Wood Emperor's introduction, Qing Ming nodded. What's wrong with that? If we don't do that, how can the weak and powerless human beings survive? This method is just a temporary measure. To reach the peak, you have to walk the path of the true body of the human race. You can't walk any other path. This method gives you power, but it also gives you no future. But if you can't survive, what future do you have? Qing Ming's reasoning was simple, but it was also very correct. The Wood Emperor didn't know what to say. What about you? You have no problem surviving. Do you still have a future? Do you want to reach the peak of this world? The peak of this world. Qing Ming took a deep breath, raised his head and said, Of course I do. Of course I want to reach the peak of this world. Good. The Wood Emperor laughed out loud and thought to himself, Another young man has been fooled. Chapter 873. Bow. Shoot. When the morning sun shone into the village, the teenagers of the Qing Yi clan lined up neatly on the training field under the guidance of the archer Qing Ying. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sharp arrows were shot out and pierced through the air. One arrow after another pierced deeply into the ironwood target. The tail of the arrow, which was made from the feathers of the goshawk, buzzed and vibrated. Bullseye, 3 inches into the wood. Not bad, little boys, you haven't been slacking off these days. Qing Ying glanced at the targets and was quite satisfied with these teenagers' archery skills. Bullseye was the basic requirement, but 3 inches into the wood was the embodiment of strength. To be able to shoot 3 inches into the iron wooden targets, these teenagers were at least at the 6th level of the novice magus realm. In a big clan, this level of strength was not very strong, but in a small clan like the Qing Yi clan, it was already a good strength. Da-da-da. At this time, a series of footsteps sounded. The crowd turned around and saw Qing Ming holding a long bow, walking slowly towards the shooting field with heavy step. Why is Qing Ming here again? Qing Ying, who was teaching the teenagers archery skills, couldn't help but sigh and shake his head when he saw this stubborn and strong teenager. In this world, there were many things that couldn't be achieved by hard work. Qing Ming? Why is this loser here again? How can he not come? If the teenagers in the clan don't participate in the training, they won't get any food. If he doesn't come, will he starve to death? What can he train with his current condition? He can't even see, how can he shoot arrows? Is he trying to make a living? Anyway, he has been eating rice for so many years. Seeing Qing Ming walking towards them, some of the teenagers on the shooting field mocked him, some shook their heads in sympathy, and some just ignored him. Qing Ming, Qing Ying looked at Qing Ming, who was walking silently into the shooting field, and opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. Uncle Qing Ying, my eyes are fine. Qing Ming raised the bow, faced the target in front of him, and nodded to Qing Ying with a smile. Fine. Hearing this, Qing Ying paused and looked at Qing Ming's eyes, which were still gray and dull. With a long sigh, Qing Ying shook his head. He was clearly a blind man, yet he was still spouting nonsense? Who are you trying to fool? Even if you're eating plain rice, there's no need to lie, right? At this moment, a young man standing beside Qing Stix glanced at Qing Stix's gray eyes and snorted heavily. I'm not blind anymore, and from now on, I don't need to eat white rice anymore. Smiling faintly, Qing Ming raised his bow, aimed at the target in front of him, and pulled the bowstring. Buzz. With the sound of a bowstring, the sharp arrow left the bowstring and flew through the air. The sharp sound of something breaking through the air sounded as if it was going to tear the sky apart. Boom! With a loud explosion, the arrow hit the bullseye. Furthermore, it had pierced right through the target. It can't be. Is this a blind guess? Blind people can shoot arrows? He even shot through the target? That's impossible, right? Seeing this arrow, the entire shooting range was in an uproar. The group of youths opened their mouths wide, unable to close them for a long time. Qing Ying jumped to Qing Ming's side, looked at this young man with gray eyes, and said with a shocked face, You can hit the target? And you shot through the target? You're already at the 10th level of the Novice Magus level? Uncle Qing Ying, I can see now. My cultivation level has also increased by leaps and bounds. Qing Ming put down the bow, smiled and nodded to Qing Ying. Uncle Qing Ying, can I come to the training from now on? You? What the hell is going on? How come you can suddenly see? And your cultivation has improved so much? Qing Ming's performance could only be described as a miracle. Qing Ying couldn't believe it. Ancestor souls showed up and gave me a gift. This was what the Wood Emperor told him to say. In Qing Ming's mind, the Wood Emperor was even more ancient than the ancestor souls. Saying that it was the ancestor souls who showed up was correct. Ancestor souls showed up? Qing Ying popped out his eyes and was stunned. Since when did the ancestor souls become so generous? Wasn't there often no grace bestowed after the sacrificial offerings? Now, they didn't even offer sacrifices, and they just gave him a gift? This was about the ancestor souls, so no one could say anything about it. In the southern wasteland, the ancestor souls were the most sacred beings. The ancestor souls of each clan were the guardians, guides, and the source of power. Although it was rare to see the ancestor souls giving blessings, it didn't happen. It was very troublesome to ask the ancestor souls for confirmation. The ancestor souls slept in the depths of the ancestor lands all year round, and they wouldn't wake up unless there was a sacrifice. Who would waste this rare opportunity to ask the ancestor souls if they had given Qing Ming a blessing? Alright, since you can see now, then come to the training. Looking at Qing Stix's gray eyes, Qing Ying was speechless. Qing Stix was clearly blind. How could he see? What kind of magic did the ancestor souls use? This kind of miracle that even a blind person could see, perhaps only the ancestor souls could do it. Good, Qing Ming has started on his way. With the Wood Emperor there, I don't have to care about him. Liu found a floating island in the southern wasteland and made a simple cave residence. Then, he started to study what he got from Pangu. according to the theory of Little Meng's world. The Pangu, Nuwa, and even the three pure ones in this world should be considered as additional self, right? With Li Yu's memory, he could find many worlds where people like the three pure ones existed. For example, the world of gods, the world of Journey to the West, the legend of the White Snake, Mount Shu, and so on. The three pure ones in these worlds had different strength. Some were so powerful that there was no limit to their strength, and some had their alchemy cauldrons overturned by monkeys. According to the theory of Little Meng's world, these should be considered as additional self. Let's not care about these first. Let's see if the jade disk of fate in this world is so magical. Let's see how powerful the Pangu of this world is. Releasing his spirit, Li Yu started to feel the rules of heaven and earth contained in the jade disk of fate. The 3,000 great paths are all in it. The jade disk of fate is indeed true. Although he didn't know if the jade disk of fate in the Eldritch world was like this. But the jade disk of fate in front of him really contained all the rules of this world. This is the easiest rule of heaven and earth to obtain. In other worlds, Li Yu had to think of various ways to obtain the rules of heaven and earth. In this world, robbing Pangu directly was a piece of cake. Alright, I can only rob Pangu once. If Pangu wasn't in a miserable state, Li Yu would have to take a blow from the sky-splitting axe if he wanted to rob him. It was easy to deal with the rules of heaven and earth. He had many experiences of feeling and controlling the rules of heaven and earth. It was very easy to integrate the rules of heaven and earth of this Pangu world into his own origin. But chaos was more troublesome. Pangu didn't think about it? He didn't think about what chaos was at all? Li Yu shook his head helplessly. Pangu was born from chaos, and then he created the world, cut open the chaos, and gave birth to this Pangu world. However, his impression of chaos was merely, "What the hell is that? I hate this kind of thick-skinned guy the most." Li Yu was depressed. Would it kill you to feel it seriously? How am I supposed to interpret a "what the hell is black"? Chapter 874. I'll have to think of another way to comprehend the chaos. In this universe, besides the life forms such as Pangu, who created the universe, there was also a species named Chaos Fiend God. These Chaos Fiend gods were also born from the chaos. Some Chaos Fiend gods were muddle-headed and only had endless thoughts of destruction. However, there were also some who were very wise or cunning. Outside the land of the four wastelands, there is an endless ocean. In these oceans there lives a powerful species, which is one of the three clans of Pangu, the Dragon Clan. The Dragon Clan originated from Pangu and was Pangu's bloodline. However, the ancestral dragon of the Dragon Clan, the eldest son of Pangu, was extremely domineering. He actually caught a Chaos Dragon, one of the Chaos Fiend gods, as his wife. There were originally two Chaos Dragons, a pair of siblings. When Pangu created the world, the Chaos Fiend gods besieged Pangu. They wanted to snatch Pangu's position and occupy this part of Pangu's world. Among them were these two Chaos Dragons. Then, Pangu killed all the Chaos Fiend gods. The Chaos Dragon's soul was shattered by Pangu's axe. The dragon's sister was also beaten half to death by Pangu. This half-dead dragon sister wasn't willing to give up, so she came to Pangu world to cause trouble. After that, she became Dragon Mother. How powerful was the ancestral dragon back then? Even Taoist Bodhi, Taoist Lotus, Taoist Dachi, Taoist Qingwei, and Yu Daoren were beaten by him. The 5 Taoists mentioned above were the 2 Buddhas of the West and the 3 pure ones of the East in this world. The ancestral dragon, who was so powerful, definitely wouldn't live long. As far as I'm concerned, Dragon Mother is a Chaos Origin dragon that is worth studying. Li Yu took a step forward and instantly traversed the endless void, arriving above a vast and boundless ocean. This is the East Sea. The East Sea of this world was unimaginably vast. It was even bigger and more vast than the eastern wasteland. Looking up, there were countless true dragons living in the vast East Sea. As one of the 3 clans of Pangu, they inherited Pangu's powerful body. The true dragon clan could be said to be the most powerful clan in Pangu's world. Unfortunately, the ancestral dragon courted death too much. The invincible dragon clan that dominated the world back then is about the same strength as the Phoenix clan now. Liu smiled and shook his head. That's why people say that one shouldn't be too arrogant. Otherwise, one will suffer losses. Not only did the ancestral dragon seek death by beating up the 3 purities and 2 Buddhas, he also sought death by taking the Chaos Origin Dragon as his wife. Among the Chaos Fiend gods, the Chaos Dragons were the most powerful creatures that represented destruction and slaughter. The dragons that were born from mating with such creatures would naturally have all kinds of problems. The dragon's greed, dominance, and desire for destruction originated from the nature of the dragon mother's bloodline. As a result, all kinds of evil dragons emerged one after another, wreaking havoc and slaughtering the world. This gave many people an excuse to subdue demons and eliminate devils. Didn't you see that the heavenly dragons under the command of the 2 Buddhas of the West were all evil dragons who had turned over a new leaf? As for whether it was a real, evil dragon or not, it was understandable that the Western Buddha could not tell for a moment. In fact, the real evil dragons are not the ones behind. Liu saw that 9 real, evil dragons were sealed under the eye of the East Sea. The dragon mother gave birth to 9 sons. In the current Pangu world, people only knew that the ancestral dragon had 9 sons. In fact, the dragon mother gave birth to 18 of them. In addition to the 9 sons that the world knew, there were 9 real evil dragons. They were too much of a disaster that even the ancestral dragon himself could not stand it, so he sealed them under the eye of the East Sea. Soul Devourer, Blood Devourer, Bone Devourer, Heart Devourer. These 9 real evil dragons all have the word Devourer in their name. They are even more terrifying than the Tautai of the 9 sons. These 9 tyrannical dragons that mainly inherited the dragon mother's bloodline not only harmed other races, but also ate the dragons. This was why the ancestral dragon could not stand it anymore. The dragons in this world are also a group of good fighters. Didn't I have the name of Dragon Emperor back then? It's only natural to take the dragons in this world under my command. Flashing across the air, he landed beside the eye of the East Sea. Above the eye of the East Sea, besides the watery light, was a powerful seal. The seals of the dragon kind, phoenix kind, and the human kind? From this seal, Liu sensed the powers of the dragon kind, phoenix kind, and the human kind. It seems that the phoenix kind and the human kind don't trust the seal of the dragon kind. They are worried that the dragon kind will go easy on them. After deciphering the jade disk of creation and fully understanding the natural laws of Pangu world, Liu was no different from not having this seal at all. Evil dragons, I will give you a great fortune. I will let you turn over a new leaf and become dragons again. Reaching out his hand, Ji Hao clenched his fingers. Silently, his enormous hand went through the seal and grabbed the 9 evil dragons sealed in it. Flicking his sleeve, Ji Hao sent the 9 evil dragons into the storage. Speaking of which, these 9 are also the ancestral dragon's sons. As long as they get rid of their brutal nature, they can be of some use. The ancestral dragon's 9 sons were top-notch existences in the current Pangu world. Of course, compared to the 3 pure ones and the 2 Buddhas and Nuwa, who were at the peak, they were still far from being as powerful as they were. After collecting the 9 evil dragons, Liu turned his head and looked at the outermost part of the East Sea. There was an even larger eye of the East Sea. This huge eye of the East Sea seemed to be the source of all the seawater in the East Sea. Mighty watery light was surging out of it all the time. On this eye of the East Sea, there was an even tighter seal. Dragon Mother is sealed here. In the end, Ancestral Greygown clearly understood that this wasn't just snatching back a wife. This was clearly inviting back a scourge. Ancestral Dragon didn't care about Dragon Mother's nature of destruction and killing. However, no matter how powerful Ancestral Dragon was, he couldn't stand his wife causing trouble for him every day. Today, she ate a human tribe. Tomorrow, she killed a nest of phoenixes. The day after tomorrow, she killed a bunch of disciples of the Western sect. When the 3 pure ones, the 2 Buddhas, and Nuwa came one after another, Ancestral Dragon couldn't stand it no matter how powerful he was. In the end, Dragon Mother was sealed in the eye of the East Sea. Dragon Mother is a Chaos Origin Dragon. Furthermore, she has her brother's body and the body of another Chaos Origin Dragon with her. Liu was very satisfied with the 2 Chaos Dragons he could study. Even if Chaos Dragons didn't care about comprehension or the true meaning of primal chaos, their bodies were born from the chaos itself. After analyzing the body of the Dragon of Chaos, Liu could also explore the chaos from the side and confirm his own understanding. Ancestral Dragon, I'm not here to steal your wife. Liu shook his head with a smile. He reached out and grabbed Dragon Mother through the seal on the eye of the East Sea. Roar! An angry roar rang out, and a violent aura filled the air. Liu felt that the long worm in his hand was twisting crazily. He also felt a faint pain on his finger, as if Dragon Mother was biting his finger with her mouth full of sharp fangs. You really are a wicked woman. Liu shook his head and waved his hand, putting Dragon Mother back into the vault. At this point, Liu had officially stolen Ancestral Dragon's wife. In essence, this should still be considered stealing someone else's wife, right? Chapter 875. Chaos Dragons are indeed wondrous. After collecting Dragon Mother and the 9 dragons, Liu immediately left the East Sea and returned to the southern wilderness. Sitting down in his simple residence on the floating island, Liu began to study the Chaos Dragon's body and explore its secrets. Born of the primordial chaos, the Tao of slaughter and destruction, Liu released the brother dragon that Pangu had killed. The Chaos Dragon's body was enormous. It was 129,600 miles long in its true form. It wouldn't be appropriate for such a dragon to show its true size in the southern wilderness. The brother dragon in front of Liu was only about 30 meters long and didn't reveal its true form. The Chaos Dragon's appearance was exactly the same as a true dragon's. It was said that when the Ancestral Dragon was born from Pangu's bloodline, it resonated with the Chaos Dragon and used it as a model to manifest itself. The body of the primal Chaos Origin Dragon was born from the power of destruction. Every drop of its flesh, every scale, and every claw is inscribed with the supreme true intent of slaughter and destruction. In Liu's opinion, the Chaos Dragon's body was engraved with the natural Tao of slaughter and destruction. It was good stuff. Even an ordinary innate spirit treasure would be shattered into pieces if it were bitten by the densely packed murderous Tao patterns on its teeth. No wonder when Liu caught Dragon Mother, he was bitten by her a few times and felt a faint pain in his fingers. Born of the primordial chaos, the Chaos Dragon was a ferocious creature born of the primordial chaos destructive power. If it hadn't met Pangu, a berserker with off-the-charts, the Chaos Dragon would have been a peerless overlord of the primordial chaos. Every part of its body was born of slaughter and destruction, and its body was engraved with connate patterns of slaughter. If one comprehended the connate patterns of slaughter in the Chaos Dragon's body, they could have created a connate Tao of slaughter. If the Chaos Dragon's body was forged into a weapon, it could have been forged into a connate treasure of slaughter. Unfortunately, this was not what Liu wanted. The Tao law of slaughter and destruction was born in the chaos. How did this come about? In Liu's eyes, the primal chaos was nothingness. There was no matter, no energy, no order, and no laws. Chaos was born, so why would it be slaughter and destruction? Alright, the chaos contained all chaos, so it wasn't strange for it to give birth to slaughter and destruction. However, it was very difficult to deduce the chaos from the perspective of slaughter and destruction. Everything was destroyed to the extreme, and everything returned to chaos. This method was not impossible. But when it was destroyed to the extreme, even its own existence would be destroyed. Only an idiot would do something like that. Let's leave the primordial chaos dragon for now. Collecting Brother Dragon's body, Liu ignored Dragon Mother and focused his eyes on the 9 evil dragons. Speaking of which, these 9 evil dragons have inherited too much of the Chaos Origin Dragon's bloodline. The bloodline of slaughter and destruction made the 9 evil dragons unable to control their instinctive desire to destroy, thus causing them to commit countless sins. Since they have the ancestral dragon's bloodline, how can the descendants of Pangu be controlled by the Chaos Origin Dragon's bloodline? Liu smiled and waved his hand, causing a 5-colored radiance to surge. Endless radiance swept across the area as the Chaos Origin Dragon's bloodline in the 9 evil dragons disintegrated, while the ancestral dragon's bloodline grew and thickened. Return to the origin and reconstruct the body of a true dragon. The Chaos Origin Dragon's bloodline dissipated completely, while the ancestral dragon's bloodline of Pangu surged within the 9 true dragons. The 9 true dragons were completely golden, radiant, and sacred. They no longer had any evil aura, only natural nobility and majesty. This was the true appearance of a true Pangu descendant. Now this is a true dragon. The dragons born of the ancestral dragon and the Chaos Origin Dragon, more or less, have some of the Chaos Origin Dragon's bloodline. Now, the dragon race has completely lost their original appearance. This is too outrageous. Liu raised his eyebrows. Since he couldn't understand the true meaning of primal chaos from the Chaos Origin Dragon, he might as well take advantage of the dragons. The dragons of this world need to be purified again. At this moment, Liu naturally thought of the Dragonized Pool. Back then, he had impersonated the Dragon Emperor and created a Dragonized Pool on Dragon Island in Han Li's world, purifying all the dragons with impure bloodlines and turning them into true dragons with pure bloodlines. Now, the Dragonized Pool was also very suitable for this world. These 9 true dragons with pure bloodlines have eliminated the contamination of the Chaos Origin Dragon's bloodline. In Pangu's world, they'll be even stronger. Liu nodded. This is what a true Pangu descendant should look like. With a wave of his hand, Liu released the 9 true dragons with pure bloodlines. My 9 dragons Rui chariot has always been unworthy of its name because it lacked 9 powerful true dragons. Now, these 9 dragons are just right for me to use. The 9 true dragons had shrunk in size and were only about 3 meters long. They were golden all over, as if they were made of gold. They shone brilliantly and faintly resonated with heaven and earth. They were naturally auspicious. We pay our respects to His Majesty Emperor Yu. The 9 true dragons knelt in front of Liu. In the memories of their souls, they had always been the mounts of His Majesty Emperor Yu, pulling the chariot for His Majesty Emperor Yu. I've already transmitted the situation of the dragons of this world into your minds. Liu nodded at the 9 true dragons. The bloodline of the dragons of this world has been tainted. As the ruler of the dragons, how can I sit by and watch the bloodline of chaos and slaughter stain the sacred blood of the dragons? Today, I bestow upon you a Dragonized Pool. As the sons of the ancestral dragon of this world, you shall lead the dragons of this world, return to their origins, and rebuild their true bodies. We obey. The 9 true dragons knelt down and accepted the order. This is the Dragonized Talisman. Take this talisman and go to the East Sea Dragon Palace. Activate this talisman and you will be able to build the Dragonized Pool. With a flick of his finger, a talisman fell in front of the golden dragons. Go. Yes. The 9 true dragons bowed and instantly broke through the void and rushed to the East Sea Dragon Palace. East Sea. In the middle of the boundless ocean stood a magnificent and luxurious palace. This was the Dragon Palace. Have you heard? A few days ago, that little brat Ao Lin went to the human territory of Middle-earth and picked up some treasures. Humans. That place is indeed suitable for picking treasures. A group of dragons lay at the bottom of the sea and talked nonsense. Roar. At this moment, an earth-shattering dragon roar sounded. A brilliant light illuminated heaven and earth and the entire ocean. 9 dazzling true dragons coiled their huge bodies. Their majestic, noble, and sacred auras covered the sky and earth. The resonance that originated from the bloodline made all the dragons in the ocean tremble from their souls and bloodlines. Ancestral dragon? This feeling, this aura, this was the aura of the ancestral dragon. This was the purest aura of the ancestral dragon. How could there be such a pure aura of the ancestral dragon in this world? Roar, roar, roar. In an instant, thousands of dragons roared. The entire ocean was boiling. Countless true dragons broke out of the water, trembling as they bowed in front of the 9 true dragons. Chapter 876. Boom! At this moment, the void trembled violently as 9 dragons of different shapes broke through the air. These were the 9 sons of the dragon. Due to the interference of the ancestral dragon bloodline and the Chaos Origin dragon bloodline, none of the 9 sons of the ancestral dragon had a complete true dragon form. On the other hand, their descendants' Chaos Origin dragon bloodline was much thinner, and they regained their true dragon form. It's you. Bayan, one of the 9 sons of the dragon, looked up at the 9 true dragons and quickly identified their origins. These were the 9 sinful dragons that the ancestral dragon had suppressed in the eye of the sea, and they were their brothers. Bayan, also known as Bashya, shook his tortoise-like body violently. You? Why did you come out? And your auras? Sensing the noble and perfect true dragon bodies of the 9 true dragons and the sacred and majestic auras of the ancestral dragon, the 9 sons of the dragon were all dumbfounded and trembling. After being suppressed for hundreds of millions of years, the sinful dragons of the past had actually purified their bloodline? They had regained their sacred and perfect ancestral dragon bodies? My name is Ao Guang, the eldest son of the ancestral dragon. A golden dragon coiled up, and its sacred and majestic dragon aura cleansed the world. Ao Guang? Aren't you called Serene? Bayan cursed inwardly, but the name Serene clearly couldn't be used on the sacred and majestic Ao Guang. These guys committed all kinds of evil in the past, and after being suppressed by the ancestral dragon for so many years, they actually obtained such an opportunity to wash away their Chaos Origin dragon bloodline and become pure ancestral dragon bodies. The 9 sons of the dragon were all envious. As the sons of the ancestral dragon, none of them had a dragon body. This was an eternal pain in their hearts. They had 18 sons, but none of them looked like their father. The awkwardness couldn't be washed away even with all the water in the world. Thanks to the grace of the Lord of the Dragon Clan, we were able to purify our bloodline and return to our origins, restoring our ancestral dragon bodies. Sacred light illuminated the world as Ao Guang raised his head and let out a mighty dragon roar that resounded through the clouds. Today, we also bring you the grace of the Lord of the Dragon Clan. The golden dragon waved its claws, and a vast and mighty light gathered to form the image of a pond in midair. This is the dragon transformation pool. Ao Guang glanced at all the dragons around him. For countless years, the dragons have been suffering from the pain of their bloodline and have never recovered their ancestral dragon bodies. Today, I bring the grace of the Lord of the Dragon Clan. Cleanse yourself in the dragon transformation pool, purify your bloodline, transform into the pure bloodline of the ancestral dragon, transform into a true dragon. The dragon's roar reverberated through the 9 heavens. After Ao Guang finished speaking, the entire East Sea was dead silent. Countless giant dragons widened their eyes and stared at the dragon transformation pool in the air with their mouths agape. Compared to the pure dragon bodies of Ao Guang and the others, the sacred radiance and the nobility that came from their bloodlines made countless dragons feel ashamed of their inferiority. Yes, that was a true dragon. That was the purest ancestral dragon bloodline. That is our true colors. Roar, an earth-shaking dragon roar resounded. The entire eastern sea was in an uproar. All the dragons cheered. Open the storehouse, move the materials, and build the dragon transformation pool. Dragon son Tao Wu stretched his neck and roared at the sky. Even Shirxin and the others, who were driven mad by the Chaos Dragon bloodline, could recover their ancestral dragon bodies. How can we be inferior to them? As for the Lord of the Dragon Clan, that Ao Guang mentioned, there was no doubt that it was the ancestral dragon who had disappeared for countless years. Who else could be called the Lord of the Dragon Clan, other than the ancestral dragon? It turned out that the ancestral dragon was not dead. It turned out that the ancestral dragon had been trying to find a way to purify our bloodline all these years. Today, he finally found a way. After the dragon transformation pool was built, the Dragon Clan would definitely welcome a new life. Roar, after the dragon transformation pool was built, Tao Wu was the first to rush in. He was the first to cleanse himself and purify his bloodline. An extremely joyful dragon roar resounded through the sky. A golden dragon with a dazzling golden light swam in the air, displaying his perfect body and sacred bloodline to his heart's content. Roar, roar, roar. The dragons roared and cheered wildly. The commotion caused by the Dragon Clan naturally alarmed countless existences and all the forces in the world. However, in the eyes of these people, no matter what the lunatics of the Dragon Clan did, it was very normal. Moreover, the Dragon Clan was not to be trifled with. As long as the Dragon Clan army did not come to attack, they could not be bothered with those lunatics. Therefore, Li Yu's plan to transform the Dragon Clan went very smoothly. Clang! The sound of the heavens was vast and mighty, and flowers fell from the sky. A bright yellow light descended from the sky towards Li Yu. This is merit? Li Yu suddenly realized that the bright yellow light that descended from the sky was actually merit. I don't need you to reward me. With a flick of his sleeve, the power of merit was instantly stored in the resource vault. The author cried bitterly. Bastard! If you don't want a reward, give it to me. I've been asking for a reward every day. I've been looking forward to a reward for a long time. In this Pangu world, there is the heavenly Tao, as well as luck and merit. Li Yu glanced at the resource vault and saw the bright yellow power of merit. He smiled and nodded. This is the first time I've come into contact with something like merit. It's a good opportunity to study it. Heavenly Tao, luck, merit, this was a setting that many worlds had. Although Li Yu had collected the rules of this world through the creation Jade Disc, this was the first time he had seen the real thing of merit. Merit is the reward of heaven and earth. I allowed the direct descendants of Pangu, the Dragon Clan, to recover their original appearance, which is in line with the needs of the heavenly Tao. Naturally, it will reward me. However, Mr. Li expressed that he wasn't qualified enough to reward him. The matter of the Dragon Clan was basically settled. The entire Dragon Clan in Pangu World could be said to have fallen into Li Yu's hand. However, this is of no help to my fundamental goal. For Li Yu, the most important thing was to comprehend the chaos. The him in the origin world was like a sharp sword hanging high in the sky. If he didn't improve his strength quickly, he would end up being swallowed by others. The path to chaos is very difficult. Even if I analyze the chaos in this world, I may not be able to attain the origin of chaos. After all, this world was only one of the many worlds in the universe. To become the origin of all time and space in the universe, the chaos in this world might not be enough. The problem now was that he didn't even have the chaos in this world. My goal is to be a god of creation like Pangu, who created the universe. Chaos fiend gods like the Chaos Dragon were probably just a representation of a certain Tao born from the chaos. They were not the complete chaos. No wonder these chaos fiend gods attacked the creator crazily at the moment of creation. I'm afraid they wanted to seize this position and complete themselves. Liu rose to his feet and looked up at the void beyond the heavens. From Dragon Mother's memory, I found a broken world. The creator of this world had already died. However, his body was still here. This creator born from the chaos was equivalent to Pangu. Naturally, he had to study him carefully. Chapter 877. Amidst the boundless void, a crystalline light flashed across. Rushing out of Pangu world and moving swiftly in the boundless void, even with Liu's power, it would still take him quite a long time to reach his destination. In the boundless void there was no up, down, left, right, front or back. If not for the route in Dragon Mother's memories, Liu might have lost his way. This universe is simply too vast. The vast Pangu world was only one of the countless worlds in this world. How many worlds like this existed in the boundless void? Chaos dragons are indeed creatures of the primordial world. It's simply too convenient for void creatures to move about in the primordial world. In this universe, the boundless void outside the world created by the Creator was known as the primordial world. Most of the time, people equated the primordial world with the primordial world. After stepping into the primordial world, Liu discovered that there were some differences between the primordial world and the true primordial world. Only the primordial world that gave birth to Pangu and the Chaos Fiend God is the true primordial world. The other places can only be called the void. Following the route in Dragon Mother's memories, Liu's figure transformed into a crystalline light, breaking through the boundless void and advancing rapidly. Streams of strange light flashed past his eyes. In the void, these streams of light were extremely eye-catching. Have I finally arrived? His figure flashed, and he instantly rushed into the streams of light. Then, he arrived in a strange world. The sun and moon shone together, and the stars shone brightly. The blazing sunlight and the cold moonlight illuminated this world at the same time. Thousands of bright stars floated in the sky, and their starlight shone brightly. This world had a clear boundary. A shell condensed from purple mist surrounded the entire world. Within the purple mist, countless magnificent and unpredictable golden runes flickered, emitting a heart-palpitating power. Under the radiance of the sun, moon, and stars, a continent floated in the void. What dense natural energy! The spiritual chi that permeated between heaven and earth rippled like water. It was as if the entire world was a vast ocean of spiritual chi. Looking up into the void, there were all sorts of floating islands in the void around the continent. All sorts of spiritual herbs and spiritual herbs were growing on the floating island, exuding a substantial amount of wood essence. Some of the floating islands that didn't have any vegetation were also emitting all kinds of divine light. Obviously, these places also nurtured all kinds of natural treasures. They're all good treasures. Liu glanced at the floating islands and nodded with a smile. These heavenly materials and earthly treasures were all born in this world and could be considered as pretty good natural treasures. However, what Liu was truly concerned about was the continent in the void. That was a boundless continent, larger than any of the 5 continents in Pangu world. In fact, this is not a piece of land. Instead, it was a Pangu. Standing in the void, he looked up at the land. From Liu's position, he could see the true appearance of the continent. It was a beautiful girl with a huge body and graceful bearing. That's right, it was a girl. She had a beautiful head, a slender neck, a towering chest, and slender arms. She had a smooth belly and a pair of strong legs. Mountains, rivers, and forests gradually appeared on the body of this incomparably huge girl. Pan-Shi, is this your name? Liu looked at the girl who was as huge as a continent and sighed deeply. An existence that could split the heavens and the earth had fallen before he could even complete the creation of this world. With a flash, Liu landed on the continent. The land in front of him also transformed into countless living creatures, all kinds of natural treasures, including stone men, water men, tree men, and so on. Liu was standing on Pan-Shi's forehead. This was the highest position on the continent. Looking from this direction, there were huge wounds on Pan-Shi's chest and abdomen. If placed on the continent, these wounds were bottomless chasms. You died from the Chaos Demon God's attack? After killing the Chaos Demon God, you couldn't have held on either. Liu nodded and transformed into a streak of light, silently merging into the earth. In the next moment, Liu appeared in a space filled with purple mist. This is Pan-Shi's violet palace sea of consciousness. The churning purple mist was vast and boundless, like a vast ocean. In the middle of this vast ocean, a dazzling and beautiful flower floated in the middle of the ocean of purple chi. This huge flower was sparkling and translucent, as if it was carved out of the purest white jade. Endless runes flowed in the dazzling radiance. This is Pan-Shi's Dao flower. Liu looked at the Dao flower and saw the purple runes flowing in the stamen. He smiled and nodded. Keeping a diary is a good habit. Compared to that rough man Pangu, a literary girl like you is much cuter. The runes flowing in the stamen were called Chaos Dao runes, also known as Dao runes. Liu originally didn't know a single word. But he had robbed Pangu. Pangu might have been a rough man, but he wasn't illiterate. He was at least literate in this language that belonged to the creator of heaven and earth. Absorb. He reached out and the runes flowing in the stamen flew into Liu's hand. Then I'll take a peek at the girl's diary. Grabbing the amulet, Zhang Xian sent it into his glabella and fused it with his soul. He divided his attention into millions of parts, constantly deciphering all the information Pan-Shi had left behind. A literary girl is much better than a rough man. After a long while, Liu let out a long breath and smiled. From this cluster of runes, he obtained a lot of information. Everything Pan-Shi had experienced, including when she was born, where she was born, what she had experienced, how she cultivated and grew, when she opened the world. Even all the Tao laws of this world were not left out in these purple runes. Not only did I obtain the Tao laws of a world, but I also understand the life experience of a creator. This was a huge gain. Compared to that rough man Pangu, Liu could only understand Pan-Shi. This Pan-Shi was indeed a literary girl. Everything was written in great detail. According to these records, he could recover, Pan-Shi left these for resurrection, right? Liu chuckled. All right, literary girl. Since this poor Taoist has benefited from you, then I'll return the favor. Pan-Shi's Dao flower hadn't shattered, and her body was ready-made. It was very easy to operate. Resurrecting an existence equivalent to Pangu is also a novel experience. Liu was very interested. Chapter 878. There isn't much information on the chaos in Pan-Shi's records. Regarding this, Liu expressed his understanding. After all, Pan-Shi hadn't been born yet, so she naturally didn't have a deep understanding of the chaos. After her birth, she'd also studied the chaos. As she cultivated and matured, she'd also comprehended the chaos. Compared to Pangu's pitch-black darkness, she was many times stronger. This information was very valuable to Liu. After all, she was an existence born in the chaos. First-hand information about her personal experiences and feelings was of great research value. Not to mention, he also had Pan-Shi's life experiences, which allowed Li Yu to fully grasp all the secrets of the creation of the world. With this experience as a reference, even if Li Yu was asked to create a new world, he definitely wouldn't do it. That was too dangerous. Risking death to create a new world? Did he have nothing better to do? Since I've received benefits, I'm not a stingy person. Then I'll help you. With a smile, Li Yu reached out and took the Dao flower into the resource vault. His figure flashed, and he instantly broke out of Pan Shi's Zifu consciousness. As for whether or not Big Boss Li is stingy, let's not talk about it. His figure reappeared in the outside world on Pan Shi's forehead. Young girl, since you've created a new world, this world has also evolved into mountains, rivers, and all kinds of creatures. If you fully resurrect, then everything in this world will be annihilated and the end of the world will come. It's best not to do such a thing. With a smile, Li Yu pointed a finger at the ground, which was Pan Shi's forehead. I'll help you complete the evolution of this world. From Pan Shi's diary, Li Yu had obtained a complete understanding of this world's laws of heaven and earth, and clearly grasped Pan Shi's thoughts and ideas for creating a new world. The current Li Yu possessed all the abilities of Pan Shi. I've unlocked the GM authority, and I even have my own map editor. Furthermore, I don't need to consume my own power. I'm going to have to experience this addiction of being a god of creation. Li Yu hadn't played this kind of game for a long time since he had played it in the sorcerer world. As he pointed out with his finger, an endless radiance swept out like a tidal wave, engulfing the entire world. Heaven and earth are black and yellow, the universe is vast and desolate, the sun and moon are dim and dim, the stars are arranged in rows, winter comes and goes, autumn harvests and winter stores. Vast and mighty radiance swept through the heavens and earth. Following Li Yu's announcement, the laws of heaven and earth were re-established. The sun and moon rose from the east and set in the west. The stars twinkled and swirled, forming a galaxy that filled the sky. The seasons changed, wind, rain, thunder, and lightning appeared. The entire world entered a state of evolution. This evolution is still too slow. I have to speed it up. According to normal evolution, every tens of millions of years or even billions of years, this world would not be complete. Li Yu did not have that much time to waste here, so he naturally had to speed up. More importantly, he was spending other people's money anyway, so he didn't feel bad about it. Rumble! The earth quaked as Pan Shi's body radiated with endless light. Boundless origin chi of the world surged and churned wildly, rapidly being consumed. At the same time, Pan Shi's body was constantly disintegrating, transforming into an even more vast land. Mountains rose from the ground, rivers surged, and oceans converged. Vegetation grew in a cage, and flowers bloomed. With Li Yu rapidly consuming the origin chi of the world and Pan Shi's body, the evolution of heaven and earth sped up countless times. In just 2 short hours, it seemed like countless years had passed. A vast and boundless land appeared. It was no longer in the shape of a girl's body, but a vast expanse of heaven and earth. Fortunately, there's still a heart left. After having a great time, Li Yu promptly stopped after dissolving Pan Shi's body, leaving behind Pan Shi's heart. With this heart as the foundation, I'll fuse the Dao flower with all the memories in your diary and revive you. Look, I've not only helped you perfect heaven and earth, I've also helped you revive. How noble of me! There's no need to thank me. With a wave of his hand, Pan Shi's heart floated in the air. He took out the Dao flower and the rune diary that Li Yu had already read, and sent them both into Pan Shi's heart. Return to the origin, restore the original body. With a tap of his finger, the boundless vitality of the world instantly fused into Pan Shi's heart. The power of the same origin instantly activated the heart's vitality. Thump, thump, thump. The tremendous heartbeat was like a great bell shaking the world. At this moment, the entire world resonated with this heartbeat. The entire world was cheering. Countless beings prostrated themselves on the ground, the resonance of their bloodlines and souls causing them to kowtow incessantly. Return, my lord! Countless prayers echoed through the world as boundless goodwill gathered in a frenzy. The great Tao resonated, and heaven and earth sang its praises. All living beings in the world were cheering and jumping for joy amidst this heartbeat. The child who had left her mother for many years had finally returned to her mother's embrace. This world, had finally welcomed its original master. Boom! Vast and mighty radiance blotted out the sky. Auspicious clouds swirled in the sky, heavenly flowers rained down, and golden springs surged from the earth. Endless auspicious phenomena manifested endlessly between heaven and earth. She was dignified and benevolent, sacred and graceful. She was the embodiment of the heavens and earth's beauty. It was as if all the holiness and beauty of the world were manifested in her body. Pan she greets Taoist brother. Thank you for your help. As the creator of this world, the master of this world, and the controller of the heavenly Tao, Pan she knew everything that had happened after Li Yu's arrival the moment she woke up. Although the consumption of energy was a bit painful, Pan she was very grateful to this Taoist brother who'd helped her. If it wasn't for Li Yu, it was unknown when she would be revived, or even if she could be revived at all. Pan she was naturally grateful for such a great kindness. There's no need to be so polite. Li Yu smiled and waved his hand. I have a deep understanding from your diary. Oh no, from the imprint you left behind. Since I've benefited from you, I'll naturally help you to repay the karma. Taoist brother, you're so kind. Pan she bowed deeply and bowed to Li Yu. She naturally knew that if Li Yu was more vicious, it wouldn't be a problem for him to wrap her up and take her away. She had no chance of survival at all. Pan she is unable to repay Taoist brother's kindness. He stretched out his hand and a stream of light flew from the void and landed in Pan she's hand. Taoist brother, this is my natal artifact, Pan she mirror. It's quite powerful. Please accept it. There's no need. When he heard, I'm unable to repay your kindness, Li Yu instantly thought of a joke like, I'm unable to repay your kindness, so I'll repay you with my body. Seeing the Pan she mirror, that Pan she handed over, Li Yu smiled and shook his head. I've already gained a lot from you, so there's no need to thank me anymore. Taoist brother, you must be joking. Pan she lowered her head with a red face. Only then did Li Yu realize that his sentence of, I've gained a lot from you, seemed very inappropriate. This karma has been settled. I'll take my leave. Li Yu naturally couldn't stay any longer after such an awkward situation. He cupped his hands and instantly turned into light and disappeared. Thus, Big Boss Li took a step forward on the path of destined to be alone. Chapter 879. I've finally obtained information about chaos. Although Pan she's understanding of chaos was more reflected in her own understanding, it was also worth referencing and studying for Li Yu. Little Meng's world has the Wuji seal of the primordial Lord of Heaven, which is also an innate Wuji based on chaos. Coupled with Pan she's own experience of chaos, we can verify each other. Li Yu calmed down and began to comprehend chaos according to the two pieces of information. While Li Yu was cultivating in seclusion, the world was quietly changing. The dragon race had washed away the chaotic blood of the Chaos Dragon, and the pure bloodline of the ancestral dragon had returned to the true lineage of Pangu. Under the leadership of Ao Guang, the dragon race was no longer as greedy and cruel as before. The true dragons became sacred and dignified, and they reappeared as the true lineage of the world and the true lineage of Pangu. Now the universe is in chaos and the alien race is rampant. As the true lineage of Pangu, we, the dragon race, are naturally responsible for cleaning up the universe. The 18 sons of the ancestral dragon gathered together to discuss the future of the dragon race. Before we return to the clan, His Majesty said that to ensure the prosperity of the dragon race, we must do something about luck and merit. At this moment, the 18 sons of the ancestral dragon had all transformed into human forms, but there were still 2 coral-like dragon horns on their heads. Ao Guang looked up at his brothers and said solemnly, "His Majesty once saw the secrets of heaven and earth. In the future, the human race will be favored by the heavenly Tao and will be prosperous. Therefore, if we want luck and merit, we have to do something about the human race." "How? Are we going to exterminate the human race and replace them?" Tao Wu looked up at Ao Guang. "Big brother, let's not talk about the fact that the human race is also one of the bloodlines of Pangu. Even in the current situation, if we launch an attack on the human race, it will implicate a lot of things. It's not appropriate." "That's right. The human race is the main force to resist the invasion of the alien race. Moreover, behind the human race there are Nuwa and the 3 pure ones. They are all doing something about the human race. We have touched their interests, but we can't withstand their anger. Even His Majesty the Ancestral Dragon doesn't want to have a direct conflict with them, right?" Yazi rolled his black eyes and shook his head. "This is not appropriate." "Hee, it's exactly the opposite of what you think. We are not attacking the humans, we are helping them." Ao Guang smiled, glanced at the group of brothers and said, "Just as Yazi said, Nuwa, the 3 pure ones, and the 2 Buddhas, they all did something to the humankind. Then, why do they want to attack the human race?" At this point, Ao Guang pointed to the sky. His Majesty the Ancestral Dragon has already understood the truth. These people are all fighting for the fortune of the human race. Luck and merit are the foundation of a race and a sect that will never decline. Therefore, His Majesty has given the order. Ao Guang's voice became louder and louder. He raised a shining purple-gold scale high up in his hand. His mighty divine power covered the sky and covered the earth. This dragon scale naturally couldn't be the ancestral dragon's dragon scale. Of course, it was made by our big Boss Li. However, Boss Li's knockoff was more authentic than the original. Plop! Under this ancestral dragon's might, the dragon sons hurriedly knelt on the ground. "We obey the ancestral dragon's orders. His Majesty has decreed that all members of the dragon race are not to bully the human race and not to harm the common people. If there is a violation, they will be beheaded without mercy. We accept the decree. Since it was the ancestral dragon's order, and it was related to luck and merit, it was the foundation of the dragon race's prosperity in the future. The dragon sons naturally did not dare to be negligent. From today onwards, the dragon race will have the water god status. All rivers, lakes, and seas will be controlled by us. The 4 blasphemy dragon gods will control all the water in the world, ensure that the wind and rain will be smooth, and protect the human race to reproduce. We accept the decree. Once the dragon god status was established, not only would there be merit, but it would also tie the dragon race's luck and the human race's luck together. From then on, they would prosper together. In the future of the world, the human emperor would consider himself a dragon and respect the dragon. This was the general trend of the dragon race's luck and the human race's luck fusing. In the current situation, it was a win-win situation for the human race and the dragon race. Not only would the human race have a natural strong ally, but it would also be very helpful in reversing the dragon race's previous image. In the past, the image of the dragon race as a bandit and a lunatic was deeply rooted in people's hearts. However, in this way, we will have a conflict with the 3 pure ones and the 2 Buddhas, who are also fighting for the destiny of the human race. It's fine if it's the 3 pure ones. They are also on the path of sharing glory. However, the 2 from the Western sect plan to replace the country with religion and treat the human race as their own. Li Yu nodded when he heard Ao Guang's report. The two from the Western sect are villains to begin with. They will face each other sooner or later. There's no need to care. There were still 2 Chaos Essence Dragons in the resource vault. After changing their souls, they could be released to support the situation. Even if the 2 from the Western sect did not care about their pride and personally went down, Li Yu was not without means. However, the dragon race still needs time to change their image. The image of the dragon race in the past was too bad. Even if you said that the prodigal son had turned over a new leaf, no one would believe you. He could only take it slow. There's no rush for this matter. Take it slow. When the human race and the foreign race are fighting, the dragon race's reinforcements will go on stage and fight side by side with the human race. The friendship built in the flames of war is even stronger. Of course, from a certain perspective, be it the humans or the dragons in this world, even if they died, it would not have much to do with Li Yu. The reason why he had planned so much was more important: merit. After studying merit, Li Yu realized that merit was simply an omnipotent catalyst. When refining Dharma treasures and adding merit, they would become merit cardinal treasures. Not only would they be indestructible, but they would also not be tainted by karma when killing people. By adding merit to cultivation, one could cultivate a body of merit, the chi of merit, the dharma of merit, and the dharma of merit. Compared to the original version, it was several times more powerful. Logically speaking, merit is only a reward from the heavenly Tao of a world. It's meaningless to leave this world. However, merit seems to be useful everywhere. In the Pan-Shi world, perfecting the evolution of heaven and earth and reviving Pan, she also allowed Li Yu to obtain a large amount of merit. After returning to the Pan-Gu world, Li Yu suddenly realized that the merit of the Pan-Shi world was also useful in the Pan-Gu world. Although the power was reduced, it was still very valuable. If merit is a deposit, are you, Pangu, already connected to the internet? Can you even be in charge of foreign currency exchange? Of course, this was just a joke. Li Yu used some merit to comprehend chaos. He realized that after consuming merit, his comprehension of chaos actually became faster. In this way, merit was very valuable to Li Yu. After all, even with Li Yu's realm, it was very difficult to completely comprehend chaos. He naturally could not let go of something that could speed up his comprehension. So, heaven and earth are chess pieces, and all living beings are chess pieces. Let's have a good game of chess. Li Yu smiled and turned to look at the southern wasteland, at Qing Ming of the Qing Yi tribe. You're a chess piece, and it's time for you to play your role. Chapter 880. Lord Wood Emperor, are we going to look for those spirit creatures? It had been a month since the Wood Emperor's show of power. In this 1 month, Green Mystic had undergone earth-shaking changes. During the month of hunting, he had killed a lot of beasts with his poison daggers and arrows, which he dared not to provoke. Even though it was only 10% of the gains, his power had skyrocketed. From a blind cripple at the 3rd level of Novice Magus, he had become a peak-level Junior Magus. He was as powerful as Qing Ying, who had been teaching the others. In a small clan like the Qing Yi clan, which only had tens of thousands of people, there was only one senior Magus in the entire clan. That was the Magus-priest of the clan, who was responsible for worshipping the ancestors' souls and conveying their will. Qing Ming, who was only 1 step away from becoming a senior Magus, was already one of the most powerful people in the clan. After all, the Qing Yi clan was not a native of the southern wasteland, but a clan that had fled from the eastern wasteland. In the southern wasteland, where fire was the dominant power, the power of wood was not the mainstream power. This morning, Qing Ming had just walked out of the clan's encampment, planning to continue hunting and improve his power as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, the Wood Emperor had given him a new task. Lord Wood Emperor, our prey has been changed to spirit creatures? Those spirit creatures are not beasts, they are also intelligent. And they are not evil. It's not appropriate for us to hunt them, is it? In this world, there were some spirit creatures that were born according to the natural law. For example, stone monsters, tree men, and so on. These spirit creatures were also intelligent, and all of them were at least at the level of senior magus. It's not hunting, it's recruiting. The Wood Emperor explained, the Qing clan is too weak. If you don't recruit some helpers, it'll be hard for you to survive in the southern wasteland. Not to mention developing and strengthening your clan. Recruiting? You can recruit spirit creatures? Qing Ming knew that some magi could offer sacrifices to spirit creatures and get them to do something for them. However, this was only a one-time thing. Long-term recruitment was something he had never heard of before. Others can't do it, but I can do it. The Wood Emperor snorted, seeming to be a bit unhappy. I see. Thank you, Wood Emperor. Since it was the Wood Sovereign, there was nothing that couldn't be done. In the past month, Qing Ming had a deep understanding of Wood Emperor's omnipotence and unfathomability. Anything in Wood Emperor's hands seemed to be a piece of cake. Following the instructions of the Wood Empress, Qing Ming whistled through the forest and rushed toward his destination. Not long after, Qing Ming stopped at the edge of a pitch-black cliff. Lord Wood Sovereign, is there a stone golem here? Qing Ming's gray eyes scanned the surroundings. A layer of pale silver pupils appeared in the gray pupils. An invisible force was emitted from the pupils, as if it could penetrate the earth. However, he didn't find any stone golems in this cliff. Naturally, there isn't any in the cliff, because this cliff itself is a stone golem. The Wood Empress's chuckle rang out in Destiny's mind as a green dot of light shot out of his mind and landed in his hand. Take this and go recruit this stone. A mountain giant. Mountain giant? Is it another kind of stone golem? Qing Ming nodded. Looking at the Wood Empress's gift, which looked like a Magisprius talisman, Qing Ming had some hope in his heart. If we can recruit the mountain giant, the strength of our Qing clan will definitely increase rapidly. Walking to the pitch-black cliff, Qing Ming raised the talisman in his hand high. In the name of the Wood Emperor, the son of the mountain and the earth, please make an eternal covenant with me. From now on, you and I will fight side by side and face all the dangers in the world together. While chanting a strange spell, a green light burst out from the talisman in his hand and fell on the pitch-black cliff in front of him. Boom! The earth shook and the mountain shook. This 100-meter-tall cliff shook violently. Between the broken rocks, a pitch-black stone golem, which seemed to be made of obsidian, stood up from the ground and stood in front of Qing Ming. Mountains need trees. Young man who is favored by the world tree, I accept your covenant. The obsidian stone golem let out a muffled thunder-like voice, as if the earth was roaring. In the name of the Wood Emperor, the covenant is made. A light flashed on the forehead of the obsidian stone golem, and a rune that looked like a giant tree was imprinted on it. Through this rune, Qing Ming realized that he could directly communicate with this obsidian stone golem through his mind. There was no need for words. The Wood Emperor said that your race is called the Mountain Giant. Mountain Giant? Yes, it sounds much better than Stone Golem. From now on, I am the Mountain Giant, hey Yao. The big black golem raised his fist and grinned, as if he was very satisfied with the name Mountain Giant. That big brother hey Yao, can you change your body shape? Your current appearance is simply too big. Looking at the 100-meter-tall mountain giant in front of him, Qing Ming shook his head. If He Yao walked out with such a big guy, the earth would shake with every step he took. There was no need for him to do anything. I can make myself bigger, but I can gather the power of the earth and create a layer of stone armor on my body. But I can't make myself smaller. He Yao rubbed his head and laughed foolishly. But if you walk out like this, it will cause too much of a commotion. At this moment, Qing Ming suddenly felt that he had made a mistake in recruiting this big guy. This is very simple. I will walk underground. He Yao smiled and a yellow light flashed. The earth rippled like waves, and this huge mountain giant silently merged with the earth. Earth burrowing technique? Qing Ming nodded. As expected of the son of the earth, this ability is indeed extraordinary. With a super meat shield and bodyguard following him underground, Qing Ming felt even more confident. Next, under the guidance of the Wood Emperor, Qing Ming found another old tree. This was an iron sandalwood tree. When he flashed the Wood Emperor's token, this huge tree suddenly pulled its legs out from the ground and kowtowed in front of Qing Ming. The builder tree was the ruler of all trees, and subduing the treant was very easy. Then, the Wood Emperor gave the treant a new name, Ancient War Tree. Through the mountain giant He Yao and the ancient war tree Titan, Qing Ming gathered a group of mountain giants and ancient war trees. 10 mountain giants, 20 ancient war trees, 30 senior magi. The Qing Ming clan will have nothing to worry about. Qing Ming's face was filled with joy. Nothing to worry about with such little power? If you think so, you will die very quickly. 30 senior magi are nothing in front of a Magus king, not to mention the divine magi and supreme magi, who are even more powerful. The Wood Emperor sneered, "If you don't want to make progress, I will just replace you as soon as possible so as not to waste my time." Yes, Qing Ming has learned a lot. Qing Ming took a deep breath and bowed to the Wood Emperor. His vision was still too narrow. Becoming a senior magi was only the starting point. His future path was to reach the peak of this world. After adjusting his mentality, Qing Ming rushed towards the Qing Yi clan with a group of warriors. Therefore, the rise of the Qing Yi clan had officially begun. But there were mountain giants, ancient war trees, and a blind man who could see. Were you sure this wasn't a war between Warcraft? Chapter 881. Dang, dang, dang. In the ancestral land of the Qing Yi tribe, a huge bell was hanging high above the altar, and it was ringing loudly. Is that the ancestors' bell? It's not the day of the great sacrifice yet. Why did he ring the ancestors' bell? At this moment, all the people of the Qing Yi tribe were shocked. However, when the ancestors' bell rang, everyone had to go to the ancestral land and the altar. A few moments later, several figures flew over and gathered at the square below the altar of the ancestral land. Is that Qing Ming? He rang the ancestors' bell? What is he doing? During this period of time, Qing Ming's strength had skyrocketed, and the rumor of the ancestors' spirit had been deeply rooted in people's hearts. Who else could do that except for the ancestors' spirit? He could restore the sight of a blind man, and make his strength skyrocket in just 1 month. This was simply a miracle. At this moment, although people were surprised by Qing Ming's ringing of the ancestors' bell, they didn't do anything. It was not strange for someone who was favored by the ancestors' spirit to ring the ancestors' bell. More importantly, the most powerful person of the Qing Yi tribe, the ancestors' spirit priest Qing Rui, was standing behind Qing Ming with a big smile on his face. Apparently, Qing Ming's action was approved by the ancestors' spirit, and also supported by the ancestors' spirit priest. You have to support him. You are surrounded by 30 senior magi. Do you dare to not support him? The ancestor's face was full of smiles, but the corners of his mouth were slightly blue. Well, our mountain giant He Yao was too straightforward and impulsive. The ancestor's slap was not light. Even with the vitality of a senior magus, he still hadn't fully recovered. You should have shown your identity earlier. The ancestor's spirit, was so scared that he hurriedly came out to greet the ancestor. If you had shown your identity earlier, I wouldn't have had to be slapped like this. You are such a bastard. The ancestor's heart was filled with surprise and anger. The surprise was that the Qing Yi tribe was finally going to rise. As for anger, it was needless to say, his face was still hurting. By the ancestors' spirit's order, from now on, Qing Ming is the leader of the Qing Yi tribe. After the crowd had gathered, the Lord Priest walked up to Qing Ming with a big smile on his face, grabbed Qing Ming's right hand and raised it high in the air. Everyone in the Qing Yi clan must follow Chief Qing Ming's orders. Boom! As soon as the priest finished speaking, a green light burst out from the ancestral land. A giant tree appeared above Qing Stix's head, emitting endless radiance. At this moment, Qing Ming's divine might was awe-inspiring, and his aura was overwhelming. Ancestral spirits. The ancestral spirits have shown themselves. Sure enough, Qing Ming is blessed by the ancestors. Seeing this scene, the people of the Qing Yi clan didn't doubt Qing Ming at all, and hurriedly kowtowed to him. In truth, the ancestor spirits had their own difficulties that they couldn't speak of. Even if I don't want to, I can't. This little fellow really had a builder wood on him. If he really is someone favored by the Wood Empress, how can I not favor him? Big Boss Li smiled but didn't say anything. He had collected a Jianmu branch from Little Meng's world. Liu erased the Tao contained in the branch, and then injected the Tao of heaven and earth he got from the jade disc of good fortune into the branch. Therefore, this fake Jianmu branch was even more authentic than the real one. Ancestral spirits, Chief Qing Ming. All the people of the Qing Yi clan, including the Lord Priest, knelt down in front of Qing Ming. For the clan, Qing Ming raised his arm high, and shouted the slogan taught by the Wood Empress. For the clan. All the people of the Qing Yi clan shouted loudly. If a traveler saw this scene, he would be confused and think that he had walked into the wrong place. My people, since our ancestors came to the southern wasteland, it has been 10,000 years. Now we are still struggling to survive. Qing Ming stood on the altar, glanced at the people below, and said in a loud voice, "But, from today on, everything will change. We, the Qing Yi clan, will rise again and walk towards glory." Qing Ming's speech was very impassioned. However, the people below didn't react much to it. Who didn't know how to speak loudly? Why don't you say something practical? A smile appeared on Qing Ming's face. Since I've come out, of course, I will say something practical. The road to rise again starts right now. Qing Ming shouted loudly, then slowly raised his arm and waved it. Boom! A loud noise came and the earth shook. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, a huge, sturdy, and thick wall slowly rose from the ground, surrounding the entire tribe. The Tenjonghai wall was made of solid rocks, and was very solid. With the protection of this high wall, the entire tribe would be much safer. With this wall, the city would be no longer far away. Will we, the Qing Yi clan, have our own city too? Ancestral spirits bless the chief. At this moment, the whole Qing Yi clan was in a jubilant mood. This is just the beginning. Qing Ming pressed his hands to calm the people down and said, "Everyone, in addition to the wall, I have also brought eternal allies. They will protect the Qing Yi clan for generations. They will live and die together. Come out, my race's mountain giant, my race's ancient war tree." Once his voice faded, another loud noise came. Hundreds of Zhanghai mountain giants, which were made of all kinds of rocks, rose from the ground, lined up, and walked towards the Qing Yi clan's encampment with heavy steps. On the other side, 20 huge trees also lined up, and walked towards the Qing Yi clan's encampment. Stone monsters. Tree men. These are all senior Magi-level mountain spirits. They are allies? Living together? Are they our own people? 30 senior Magi. Ha 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 ha. Our Qing Yi clan is rising. In the whole Qing Yi clan, only one senior Magi, the Lord Priest, was holding the clan together. By now, did the Qing Yi clan already have 30 senior Magi? This force was already very strong in this area. Everyone, from now on, the mountain giants and the ancient war trees will protect our clan, and will fight side by side with us. They are our own brothers, our own people. We swear to protect the Qing Yi clan till death do us part. Under He Yao's lead, the mountain giants let out thunderous roars. The ancient war trees will always be the Qing Yi clan's strong support. We will fight side by side and live and die together. Tai Tan led a group of ancient war trees, and also let out a loud roar. Live and die together, fight side by side. At this moment, the whole Qing Yi clan was boiling. The Qing Yi clansmen were so excited that their blood was boiling. They raised their longbows high and shouted. The mountain giants entered the Qing Yi clan's encampment, and built a city for the Qing Yi clan, according to Qing Ming's instructions. The ancient war trees moved all kinds of flowers and trees, and redesigned the encampment. The Qing Yi clan was in full swing. From this moment on, the Qing Yi clan officially stepped on the road of rising. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.